The tale begins with the central figure introducing himself. His moniker is Cirrus, and he's a righteous individual. He reveals he recently triggered a framework, as the individual he targeted would evoke profound emotions in their soul, but he initially declined until he faced the current predicament. So in essence, what transpired was Sirius and his cohort were utilized as decoys by superiors. To entice the adversaries, it was due to their inferior rank, and the foe was insurmountable. They couldn't retaliate. Everyone was fleeing, but Sirius resisted. Enter another key player in the narrative, the demonic royal Yug. Yug mocks Sirius and his posse, questioning the strength of human champions, since they were so frail and impotent and outmatched by her sovereign. Cirrus' comrade, a Class D warrior named Bella, urges Cirrus to escape as the Warcraft tiers were excessive. He had no need to fret over her. Bella spoke this, believing him a low-ranked hero. Bravery wasn't necessary. Sirius replied, stating he came to guarantee the town's safety. In such a circumstance, fleeing was impossible. He urged Bella to be calm. He could manage Yug. Meanwhile, Yug was yawning, remarking humans were feeble and uninteresting. Siri declared he wouldn't retreat from the fight. His nose began to bleed upon seeing this. Bella anxiously inquired about his bleeding nose. She exclaimed that merely standing before them was beyond her physical capacity, yet he still attempted to fight. Bella pleaded with him to flee together. It was too late. A goblin informed Yug another individual was behind them. She advanced towards Cyrus upon hearing this, commanding her goblins to eliminate him. She instructed the goblins to turn Cyrus' head into a goblet for her king. Spotting Yug approaching, Cyrus focused his energy and fixed on Yug. In moments, she was held by his power. Yet, Cyrus was stressed as Yug neared and parted her lips, like she would consume him. Shockingly, she planted a kiss. His strength amplified slightly. Bella was stunned and yelled, questioning Cyrus' actions. The goblins, too, were amazed and inquired about Yug's behavior. As a goblin ventured closer, Cyrus struck him with his blade, sending him flying. Yug recoiled, snapping back. Ceres acted triumphant, while Bella was flustered and red. Mortified, Yug pondered her own actions. Wasn't she meant to obliterate Ceres? Whyd she kiss him. She wondered if it was Sirius' fault. Sirius yelled that for the townsfolk's safety, even if he had to give up his whole being. Had have no second thoughts, Sirius readies his blade, telling the goblins to bring it on. Head battle them. Witnessing this, the goblins started chatting about why their leader kissed a human, and they'd heard Shed found a youngster, but they didn't reckon it could be a human. As they were gossiping, their boss goblin arrived and hollered at them, telling them to not be so forward. He asked how they dared question their ruler's affection for the king. He stated they were beasts, and only nasty humans would partake in such betrayal. Meanwhile, Yug was stressed, thinking about the king, since the king shouldn't discover her kissing a human. It was truly odd for her, cause her heart was pounding. Yug commands her goblins to obliterate Cyrus. Cyrus stood with his blade, and the goblin head lunged at Cyrus. He fended off the assault, but to his astonishment, the blow was so forceful his sword was cleaved in two. Seeing this, he nervously pondered how a single hit could fracture his sword. Now the lead goblin prepared another strike, and this time Cyrus evaded it. He then noticed his defense was unchanged, but his attack strength was amplified by 100 points. So he countered, and shockingly the goblin's sword also splintered. Another goblin approached from the rear. Cyrus wheeled and unleashed his full might on the goblin, and the creatures were propelled away. Seeing this, Bella was stunned that Cyrus actually repelled the monsters. Recognizing a level F lacked such potency, Cyrus then intensely observed the goblin he struck with full force. His body remained intact. Shockingly, the goblin only suffered a graze. While pondering and observing the goblin before him, Yug ambushed him from the rear. Fortunately, Bella noticed and alerted Sirius to Yug's surprise attack. Sirius wheeled around and attempted to deflect her assault with a hand barrier. It failed, and she trampled him. A massive detonation occurred nearby, yet Sirius survived, though subdued. Witnessing this from the ground, the goblin spied an opportunity and charged towards Sirius to eliminate him. Sirius became anxious, powerless, and with no time to react. Astonishingly, a huge tail intervened and swatted the goblin aside. It belonged to none other than Yug. Observing this, The other goblins were stunned, and their leader inquired about it. Yug commanded them to remain stationary and threatened death to any who defied her. Her expression conveyed embarrassment and a desire for romance, but she confided in the goblin that she wanted to personally discipline Cyrus. Hearing this, the goblins rejoiced and affirmed. Yug spoke softly, advancing towards Cyrus. In that instant, her drool landed on his ear, boosting his defenses by 50. Cyrus pondered, was this the cost of his strength? Subjecting a righteous individual to such indignities was a disgrace to his character. But he reasoned that compared to the city's safety, a minor humiliation was insignificant. Meanwhile, Yug was perplexed by her behavior, as she was curiously acting so boldly with a human. Contemplating this, she grew agitated. As a monster, she should cease. But attempting to, her body defied her commands. It was ineffective. The goblins, observing the situation, were perplexed once more, as their leader intended to eliminate the human. But it appeared something different was transpiring. Upon hearing this, the goblin chief again scolded them for their assumptions. They should observe carefully with keen eyes, as their leader sought a breakthrough with him. If comprehension eluded them, they should refrain from careless remarks. Gradually, his defensive and offensive capabilities increased. Cyrus pondered if he was now capable of handling the goblin horde. He attempted to retrieve his damaged blade, but the goblin chief noticed and cautioned Yug. Yug swiftly restrained his hand with her tail and constricted his throat. She then hoisted him aloft with a wrathful countenance. The goblins were overjoyed and celebrated with exuberant leaps, as their leader truly desired to obliterate Cyrus. But once again, she refrained due to her peculiar conduct and volition. She moved in close and inquired about his courage to face them. The creature she menaced to disrobe him immediately, declaring as she ripped his shirt to shreds. She informed Cyrus of her desire to display to the humans the contrast between their frail forms and the physiques of monsters. But inwardly, Yug was captivated and yearned to glimpse Cyrus' physique and his abs. Elsewhere, the goblins deemed Yug's action merciless and that she was schooling the humans. Meanwhile, Cyrus stiffened as his armor was torn, but he observed Yug's hand approaching, so he prepared himself, confident in his ability to withstand and prevent further advances. Conversely, Yug was anxious, yet amorous, understanding it stemmed from genuine emotion. But she restrained herself and refrained from acting on it. Neither could withstand or resist, as she pressed both hands against him in close proximity. With longing eyes and lips, she finally embraced him with a kiss. Her teeth caused him discomfort during the kiss, and he recognized his current strength was insufficient to combat the creatures. Bella was also perplexed and flustered, uncertain if they were battling or engaging in affection. Cyrus was prepared to tolerate any agony to ensure the townspeople's safety. He would forfeit his own welfare for the common good. Even with her embrace, Cyrus grasped her and drew her near for a kiss to augment his power and defenses. As the kiss continued, he was enhancing himself, while the goblins and Bella were bewildered and astonished. The true sovereign abruptly arrived and witnessed her kissing a human. He was utterly stunned. His blade dropped from his grasp due to the jolt, and he summoned Yug. Yug ceased kissing and glanced upward with a flushed expression. Even the goblins were astonished to see the monarch. The monarch's name was Demon Lord Bartley. Bartley, astounded, declared she actually kissed that human. In the meantime, Cyrus' system identified Bartley, and a critical blow was landed on him, increasing all his perks and advancing by 1 level. Now King Bartley went into fury mode and yelled that he would eliminate him. Yug, mortified, told Bartley it wasn't what he assumed and requested time to clarify everything. Meanwhile, Sirius pondered whether his present level would suffice to battle the king. King Bartley fiercely assaults Sirius, screaming at him to keep away from his darling Yug. Instantly, Bartley approached Sirius, and because of the assault, Sirius was propelled into the air and crashed onto the ground, the impact severely impacting his physique. Bella anxiously inquires if he's all right. Cyrus replies he could still persevere. Cyrus then ponders why King Bartley materialized before him, and why his strength was unexpectedly immense. Conversely, Bartley inquires if Yug promised it wouldn't recur. Yug remains silent. Bartley is enraged. He trembles. He asks if she recalls her final words to him, that if it happened again, he'd obliterate her. So, why was she acting this way? Unexpectedly, Yug retorts angrily that everything was his fault. She asks why he arrived so tardily and what he was doing. Bartley and the goblins are stunned by her reply and the inquiry she poses to the king. Yug exclaims again it's all because of him. His tardiness nearly caused her to repeat the error. She adds that he blundered, yet he dared to question and menace her. Bartley was bewildered and perplexed, at a loss for words. Before he could answer, Yug inquired again. Reason for his tardiness, his activities during that period. Finally, Yug became enraged instead of Bartley shifting the dynamic. A woman's capability. Bartley attempted to rectify his error, pleading with Yug to calm down, admitting his fault. He described seeing numerous humans fleeing. He addressed them first. Bartley implored her forgiveness, promising to avoid repeating it. Please quell your anger. The goblins observed everything. They discussed amongst themselves. Goblin 1 noted their king's devotion to the queen, humbly acknowledging his errors. Understandably, he secured such a queen, a remarkable woman. Goblin 2 added, the gap between him and the monarch was vast. Maybe he should remain unattached. Another hobgoblin acknowledged his error and professed his affections to his beloved, Madame Satyr, the following day. Meanwhile, Syria was anxious and wanted to flee, while they were distracted, as the disparity between him and the Beast King was immense. Yug wept, making Bartley more distressed, and he repeatedly pleaded with her to cease sobbing. The gremlins were still gossiping about them and Syria, while Bella was discreetly escaping. Cirrus inquired if Bella could still ambulate, or if he should shoulder her. Bella reassured him her leg was slightly broken, but she could still walk independently. Elsewhere, Yug informed Bartley it was his tardiness that caused her to be enticed by the man, and they nearly sullied their devoted love. She begins sobbing again, and noticing this, he tells her to quit weeping. He states that if it's due to that mortal, then hell eliminate that person immediately. He also inquires if she'd be upset if he dispatches the human, and she joyfully replies with a yes. She declares that he's her everlasting beloved, and even in passing, they'd revert to oblivion together. So how could she become enamored with other guys? She also mentions that she simply adores his regal and commanding presence. Meanwhile, Bartley observed that Cyrus and Bella were gradually fleeing. He grew enraged and yelled at the goblins, inquiring why they didn't halt those people if they witnessed them escaping. The goblins answered that their highness had recently issued a command not to meddle in her affairs. He became infuriated, labeling the goblins fools, and angrily advanced towards Cyrus. In an instant, he contacted Cyrus, who perceived that Bartley had shown up. Bartley angrily questioned Cyrus' audacity to tempt his woman. Yug then launched him skyward. Cyrus soared far and crashed. His body felt shattered. He was powerless against the Monster King's assault. The speed was blinding. He was utterly outmatched by the Monster King. Bartley, enraged, charged at Cyrus, vowing to cleave him in two. Before striking, he roared this was Cyrus' punishment for enticing his woman. Cyrus knew there was no alternative. He had to keep improving. He yelled at the system for a quick lock. As he secured the system, Yug appeared and struck Bartley, demanding he not harm Cyrus. Bartley, stunned, questioned Yug's actions. Cyrus seized the opportunity and fled. Bartley tearfully inquired why she acted that way, and discovered she genuinely cared for the human. Bartley's weeping caused Cyrus to advance. Sirius pondered his chances against the demon lord. Newly strengthened, yet currently, he decided to retreat a bit before contemplating the battle. Meanwhile, Yug hungrily declared her need for that human form and advanced towards Sirius. Bartley, the sovereign, grasped her hand, questioning her words. Since she had just professed her eternal love for him, she shouldn't approach. Shocking Bartley, Yug wrenched free and rushed towards Sirius, claiming she couldn't endure it any longer. Sirius sensed the pursuer and, upon turning, spotted Yug behind him. Too late, she leaped upon him, showering him with kisses. Witnessing this, Bartley was stunned and heartbroken, while Sirius had no option but to be at her whim. Bartley stated it was due to his inadequacy, that people exploited him. He faulted himself, claiming responsibility for everything, and vowed to eliminate that human immediately and restore Yug to normalcy. Hearing this, Yug angrily demands Bartley depart and not interrupt her leisure time. Bartley was utterly astonished and devastated. Consequently, Cyrus received a 5-level boost in strength and protection. Bella attempts to intrude. yelling at Yug to abandon Cyrus and labeling her a disgraceful beast. Cyrus cautions Bella to stay away, but she ignores the warning and gets assaulted by Yug. Yug restrains Bella with her tail and resumes kissing Cyrus. While embracing, she ponders her behavior, feeling like a changed individual. Yet secretly she experiences delight in her actions. Abruptly, Bartley rises and exclaims that Yug deceived him. Everything she spoke was false. He refused to yield, and Bartley lunged at Yug. The instant he reached them poised to strike, she glanced back and noticed Bartley. Seeing her expression, Bartley felt strange and yelled, begging his blade to halt its assault because he adored her deeply. However, Yug remained indifferent and returned to Cyrus to embrace him. Witnessing her kiss Cyrus again, Bartley completely shattered. Enraged, he gripped his sword and commenced an action perhaps. It might be self-annihilation. Sirius' system registered Bartley's utter collapse, and Sirius obtained a 3-level power surge. Observing Bartley in this state, Yug inquired about his intentions. Meanwhile, the goblins grew terrified and contemplated fleeing. One of them hollered at the goblins, questioning if they desired death. If not, they should escape. Something was transforming Bartley and elsewhere. Cyrus hit level 10, and his new abilities were available. As Cyrus gained a new power, he drew his blade and attacked Bartley. The fresh technique was called Swift Body Slash, in which his sword became spectral and instantly materialized within a 5-meter range of the foe, delivering a critical hit. Observing this, Jug was also shocked that Bartley was defeated in one swift strike, wondered if with continued progress, he might obtain additional powers. Meanwhile, Yug felt disappointed in Bartley, since his previous performance was subpar, and this second attempt was meant to be smoother, so she questioned why things were unraveling. Truthfully, she anticipated Bartley to be feeble, and her hunch proved correct. Unexpectedly, Yug was astonished. Bartley lunged at her and seized her. Taken aback by the abrupt action, Yug releases Bella from her grasp. Bartley yells at Yug to honor her word and perish with him. Yug replies that she doesn't want to die. Conversely, Cyrus' system alerts him of Bartley's impending self-destruction. He attempts to flee with Bella. Meantime, Yug sobs and screams at Bartley to leave her be, because she has no desire to die. In a frantic moment, she cries out for a savior. Unexpectedly, Sirius emerges and severs Bartley's hands. He then snatches Yug and escapes. With his last breath, Bartley utters Yug's name and detonates. As the explosion happens, the earth shatters and the trio plummets. While descending, something peculiar affected Yug. Upon landing, Bella collapses near Cyrus. Yug lands atop Cyrus. Cyrus ponders if they've reached the dungeon's depths. He spots a salamander and is astonished. But his display soon reveals its young salamander state. And now her magic level was 0 and her health was just 9. Yug dashes and conceals himself within Cyrus' trouser leg. Meanwhile, Bella awakens and gradually attempts to rise. Pondering about Cyrus, though, in the process she winds up on all fours and somehow lands in an awkward spot with Cyrus. At that instant, Cyrus gets an alert that he's earned the Naya dungeon chart for vanquishing the Demon King. The message inquires if he desires to view it. Cyrus becomes perplexed, contemplating whether to access it, recognizing he must deliberate before choosing. Abruptly, Bella spots Cyrus directly beneath her, his face near her intimate region. Startled, she quickly retreats, expressing remorse. She quivers, profoundly mortified by the occurrence. However, Cyrus appears oblivious to her. As he ponders whether to unlock the map, Cyrus ultimately opts to. Unfolding the map reveals numerous features, including dead ends, obstacles, and accessible supplies. Observing this, Cyrus experiences relief and joy, understanding he can now traverse the labyrinth without fear of disorientation. He recognizes he can advance straight to the chamber with assurance. Overhearing this, Bella grows perplexed and inquires about Cyrus' words. If he spotted something, Cyrus replies with a simple negative, dismissing it as insignificant currently. Cyrus comprehends that solely he perceives his system, maintaining its presence concealed. Cyrus then requests Bella to depart, but abruptly he experiences an acute pain in his chest and regurgitates, a purplish substance appearing like blood or venom. Witnessing this, Bella becomes anxious and questions his condition, why he abruptly commenced vomiting. Unexpectedly, it persists beyond vomiting. As his hand ignites and his pinky contracts, engulfed in flames, Cyrus cries out in agony, convulsing on the earth as pain engulfs him. His entire form consumed by fire, Bella races toward him, embracing him from the back and grasping his hand. She observes his back is already hemorrhaging, so she stops him from scraping the ground further. She also detects his body is intensely hot, as if singed by flames. With her aid, the searing in his finger ceases, but not before half his pinky is launched airborne. Despite the hardship, he experiences comfort and reassures Bella he's fine. For now, nervously, Bella inquires about Cyrus' condition and its dissolving. Sorrowfully, Cyrus reveals he's been afflicted. Half a year ago, creatures assaulted the town, and he saw beasts battling a guild champion. He also divulges that amidst the clash, the creatures appeared to be vying for a container. The container was gashed by a beast, triggering a burst. Cyrus was jolted by the explosion's power and tossed into the debris. While entombed beneath the rubble, something seeped from the severed container. Upon leaking crimson fluid, precipitation commenced from the heavens. The acrid aroma overwhelmed him, inducing nausea. Everyone else began yelling and getting scorched by the downpour. Ceres relays he was still beneath the mound of rocks and hadn't directly encountered the crimson shower. However, his back aches intensely, feeling as if it's on the verge of dissolving. Despite lacking direct exposure, he was still afflicted by inhaling the stench. Upon regaining consciousness, he was in a medical facility where the physician delivered the dire prognosis that he possessed at most one remaining year. Abruptly, he perceives a screen-like display before him and is astonished to discover the demon lord's blood could remedy the affliction. The display inquires if Sirius desires to link the system and join the game. To get hints on obtaining the demon lord's blood, Sirius consents, and the next intel he gets is that the demon lord's blood is presently in the Ney labyrinth. The action then cuts back to the present, where Cyrus tells Bella that he subsequently found the cure, which is right there in the subterranean prison. Cyrus rises and suggests they depart, adding that there's a chamber up ahead with garments and arms, so they should change attire. Bella concurs, and they head toward the chamber. The scene cuts to another area of the labyrinth, where other individuals are also journeying. A man carrying a shield walks in front of everyone. Suddenly, his foot steps on something on the floor, setting off an assault by a laser beam. Witnessing this, the group's second in command. A major setback for Pingchen. Dr. Liu voices her worries about the perils inside the remnants, as the elemental entities supposedly vanquish opponents. Without killing them, it's uncertain if the Tamar lacks strength. Shu, who becomes apprehensive. The group is stunned, particularly because their mightiest protector, Claude, had his skull effortlessly punctured. They contemplate their next move, given that the expendable unit was already deployed as a lure. Tyr reveals they lack further decoys. Abruptly, Cyrus, the group's chief, interjects, stating that entering the labyrinth isn't simple, therefore they can't simply retreat presently. Cyrus then proposes utilizing the established protocol. The individual with the lowest ranking steps forward. Upon hearing this, the bottom-ranked member, Makwi, attempts to flee. However, Cyrus angrily directs Makwi to lead the way and locate the proper path, reminding him of the repercussions of defying commands. Makwi was too stressed to answer at that time. Tyr interjected, asking Cyrus to cease, as he had crafted a projectile that could ricochet. Tyr recommended releasing it and investigating first, hoping to activate at least one contraption to improve their odds of survival. The moment Tyr retrieves his arrow, which looks like a sphere, Cyrus promptly bisects it with his blade. Witnessing this, McCoy grows more anxious. Cyrus yells at Mark, cautioning him that if he spots those inferior inventions again, he will eliminate him as a lieutenant. Tyr remains silent afterward. Cyrus directs Makwai to rise and explore further. Makwai, shaking with fear, takes cautious steps forward, much to his comfort. With his initial stride, nothing activates any device. Stressed, Makwai struggles to choose his next move, pondering amidst numerous choices. Observing this, Cyrus yells at Makwakwakawoi, inquiring about his delay and imploring him to not squander time, but to hasten, quivering and shaking. Makwakwakawoi somehow advances his foot and positions it on the subsequent step. Once more he's spared as no contraption activates. Cyrus commends Maki for his courage and encourages him to continue quickly. Maki was consumed by a feeling of imminent peril, convinced that his demise was near. Incapable of proceeding further, he pauses, detecting his wavering. Someone from behind propels him forward using wind force. Maki, nearly collapsing, exclaims his desire to live. Begging to return home, the moment Maki's foot lands on the next step, a massive laser beam erupts from below, obliterating Maki instantly. Everyone becomes stressed, understanding the assault originated beneath. They ponder the possibility that the dungeon's mechanism shifts the attack point. Furthermore, each instance, the attack beam materializes abruptly, making its source indiscernible. Cyrus pauses momentarily before summoning the lowest-ranking individual. Abruptly, the facing door cracks open. Nervously, they alert their commander, Cyrus, about the opening door. Cyrus briefly tenses, but as the door fully opens, revealing Cyrus and Bella, everyone experiences relief. They explain both belonged to the diversion squad. Cyrus is astonished by Cyrus and contemplates if the diversion team's members were meant to be terminated. He inquires if Cyrus defied his directives and fled into the dungeon. Cyrus' animosity towards Cyrus likely originates from multiple sources. Initially, there might have been a feeling of treachery because Cyrus, as a participant in the diversion squad, was anticipated to forfeit himself. Rather, he lived and resurfaced, implying he might have defied commands or operated against the crew's strategy. Furthermore, Cyrus' survival might have interfered with Cyrus' comprehension of the circumstances and the authority he believed he possessed. This unforeseen shift in occurrences could have ignited Cyrus' rage and exasperation. The scenario intensifies as Cyrus confronts Cyrus with hostility, placing a blade against his throat. He insists on knowing how Cyrus knows the hue of his spouse's lingerie, signifying a violation of confidentiality and potentially implying Cyrus has been surveilled or entangled with Cyrus' spouse improperly. This encounter indicates a profound distrust and animosity on Cyrus' behalf toward Ceres, creating a strained and possibly perilous scenario. Cyrus replies anxiously, clarifying that he was honing his senses for the impending fight, which enabled him to discern the hues of his surroundings. However, Cyrus dismisses it as fabrication and is about to strike Cyrus, insisting that he promptly elucidate the connection between him and his spouse, Shui Qin. This altercation further escalates the friction between them, with Cyrus pursuing clarification and Cyrus laboring to offer a suitable account. Cyrus' companions intercede, imploring him to relax and reminding him that he can't eliminate someone within the city. Abruptly, Cyrus becomes enraged and exclaims that he would never permit them to defame his character. Like that, he proclaims that he will demonstrate the outcomes of his preparation. Before them, this outburst amplifies the strain of the circumstances, with Cyrus resolved to uphold his dignity and validate himself to his critics. Cyrus bravely states his findings. The first individual wasn't wearing undergarments. Cyrus was sporting pink underclothes, and the other two were donned in matching underpants. Upon learning this, the first person implores Cyrus to remove Ceres right away, but the others resisted the notion, requesting they avoid such extreme measures. This disclosure intensifies the strain, with varied responses from the members. They voice anxieties that if Cyrus were to dispose of Cyrus in town, and the remains were located, it would generate needless issues for all. Cyrus inquires about their ideas, and they suggest placing Ceres in the sacrificial group. This would alleviate their need for participation in Cyrus' destiny, and possibly lessen any consequences if his corpse were to be found. As the scene shifts back to the present, Cyrus ponders how he ran into a marauding band. His sole purpose was to swap gear. They seemed disoriented, amplifying the chaotic nature of the predicament. Cyrus orders Cyrus to join them, exerting his command as leader. Upon hearing this, Cyrus ponders if Cyrus yet again desires the lower-ranking individuals to navigate the contraptions as lures. Prior to Cyrus replying, Tyr cautions him against movement and conveys his hunch that Cyrus and Bella endured, insinuating they might have discovered a secure path. He proposes emulating their course to bypass the devices, thereby shielding the squad from needless peril. Cyrus retorts by highlighting the criticality of overcoming the ultimate foe of the C-grade labyrinth. He states they have already forfeited countless, invaluable fighting unit members for this objective, and retreat is no longer an option. Cyrus confronts Mark, questioning if he's genuinely prioritizing the team's welfare. He proposes that if Tyr dissents, he can depart. This shows the clashing goals within the group, and the friction between Cyrus' desire to advance and Mark's worry for the team's well-being. Mark's silence is meaningful. As Cyrus refocuses on Cyrus, he asks if Cyrus' instincts are honed, and declares it's time for him to aid the team. Cyrus cautions Cyrus to grasp the repercussions of defiance, implying he anticipates complete obedience and involvement from all. Despite consenting to Cyrus' request, Cyrus wavers when Bella voices anxieties about the path. She proposes seeking another way and discovering answers to potential problems. Cyrus pauses, recognizing the legitimacy of Bella's apprehensions and the significance of pondering alternate routes for their security. Cyrus replies by reminding Bella that Captain Cyrus had already commanded him to go. He comforts her to be calm, certain he'll be all right. With resolve, Cyrus takes the initial stride without pause, astonishing everyone with their unwavering compliance to Cyrus' order. As Cyrus advances, the others question if he's overly relying on his instincts to foresee the contraptions. However, the chart is directing Ceres, signaling that he should progress 3 strides, then turn leftward 2 tiles. This implies that Ceres might possess a blend of insight and calculated tactics available. Undeterred, Cyrus moves 3 paces ahead, everyone's astounded when he remains unharmed, even after progressing 3 steps, crediting it to fortune. As Cyrus keeps moving onward without activating any devices, the others grow progressively amazed, questioning why he hasn't hit any snares yet. 1 stride forward, Cyrus pauses before stepping. Cyrus, observing this hesitation, grows optimistic and inquires if Cyrus has sensed the contraptions. However, Sirius replies in the negative, stating that he is not. Everyone ponders how Sirius could know the correct route, considering that acquiring intel on only the initial half of the dungeon's layout required numerous operatives. Their musings are disrupted as Ceres leaps a step. Everyone presumes that Ceres' triumph depends entirely on chance, particularly since they think a low-ranking hero like him lacks the aptitude for intellect. This strengthens their conviction that Cyrus' advancement is purely coincidental, instead of expertise or understanding. As Cyrus leaps from stumbling, Cyrus grows anxious, questioning why the device wasn't activated. The chart directs Cyrus to proceed 5 steps. Upon hearing this, Cyrus is delighted, knowing he's nearly arrived. Despite the early confusion, Cyrus keeps to the map's directions, anxious to achieve his objective. Everyone's astonished to see Cyrus nearing, without activating any contraptions. On his journey, they inquire how Cyrus traversed the labyrinth without springing any snares, and if he can truly depend solely on instinct to detect the devices. Cyrus' apparently perfect advance raises questions and inquisitiveness within the assembly. Pondering the actual scope of his skills, Cyrus tells Cyrus his advancement stemmed from practice and refutes any misconduct with Shuekin. However, Cyrus is still dubious, holding his blade to Cyrus' throat and voicing uncertainty about the legitimacy of Cyrus' intuition. Deeming it mere chance, Cyrus claims fortune eventually expires and directs Cyrus to guide the path onward. If his instincts are genuinely dependable, unexpectedly Cyrus spotted fungi on the earth. The chart indicated the fungi were identified as kale fungi, and when ingested by creatures, they enhance endurance and alleviate aches. However, if a person consumes them, they might induce loose bowels upon discovering the fungi. Cyrus pondered whether Jug felt famished. If so, he considered gathering some fungi for her consumption. Cyrus then collected the fungi and feigned enjoyment, as if he meant to devour them himself. While retrieving the fungi, Cyrus was contemplating if it was unfortunate he was human, so perhaps merely tasting them wouldn't harm him. He was actually performing that because he didn't desire to reveal he possessed Yug. But Cyrus observed Cyrus obtaining something, so he inquired about it. Cyrus was going to clarify regarding the fungi, but before he could, Cyrus seized it and devoured it, stating that after conquering the labyrinth, all assets of the dungeon belonged to the hero's guild and his campaign squad. and that Sirius was ineligible to take anything. Without permission, Cyrus again commanded Cyrus to go to the front. Cyrus replied that there were no snares behind the entrance, and they could advance directly. Cyrus then declared that if that was so, Cyrus should proceed and unlock the door. Cyrus was astonished witnessing this. Cyrus inquired what was the matter, and mentioned he wouldn't allow his teammates with battle skills take the chance. He instructed Sirius to quit complaining and unlock the door. Sirius neared the entrance and was ready to unseal it, so Cyrus directed everyone to be vigilant. Nevertheless, the fungus began to kick in, and Cyrus commenced having abdominal issues. He grew anxious and pondered what was ailing his stomach. Meanwhile, Cyrus effortlessly unbolted the door. Exhaust once more, urged everyone to remain vigilant as the unforeseen could arise. Gradually, those near Cyrus detected a foul odor. It was the gas Cyrus emitted. Cyrus realized this was unfavorable. Meanwhile, Cyrus ventured deeper. Cyrus inquired about the contents within, but inwardly he felt anxious, questioning his stomach discomfort at this critical juncture, and if he should tighten his grip. Abruptly, he suspected the previous mushroom was the culprit. He concluded vigorous movement was too risky, as leakage would commence. With an odd grin, Cyrus shared his assessment. Traps were abundant in the vicinity. Unexpectedly, Cyrus bolted, urging his companions to maintain his speed and flee together. Cyrus yelled at Cyrus, instructing him no running, only a slow walk. It was a command, though. Cyrus didn't listen and continued sprinting. Everybody else followed behind, puzzled about the situation and the reason for their flight. They wondered if something was pursuing them. Meantime, Cyrus passed gas from his tummy ache. He grew more stressed, realizing he couldn't hold it back anymore. Detecting the stench, everyone assumed a threat, so they sped up. Someone mentioned the odor felt recognizable, making Cyrus ashamed. He hollered at the person, telling them to quit speaking foolishly, and urged everyone to keep moving, or they'd be contaminated. Reaching a spot, Cyrus halted from fatigue. Cyrus angrily called to Cyrus. Cyrus inquired, "What's the matter?" Cyrus inquired about Cyrus' knowledge of the fungi attributes, and if his sprint was intentional. Cyrus feigned ignorance, and replied he was unaware of the fungi fate. Cyrus pondered briefly and answered with a dismissive negative, as if it were insignificant. A comrade approached and requested Cyrus to relax on a rock and rest, but Cyrus angrily struck him, impelling everyone to regroup and proceed. He also brandished his blade at Cyrus, cautioning him against further flight or face immediate consequences. Cyrus nervously affirmed and progressed onward. He alerted them to the pitfalls to avoid triggering them. It proved highly successful, as nearby a dragon slumbered, and stepping on that tile would gradually rouse it. They arrived at the final zone, and Cyrus anticipated the ultimate confrontation. Cyrus pondered the decreasing contraptions. As they ventured deeper, no contraption had activated, and they hadn't seen a single creature along the way. So Cyrus pondered. Perhaps Cyrus had been in this place before. He also considered his own thoughts. It seemed impossible that Cyrus had been there previously, as if Cyrus was accompanied by his group. Had likely have been devoured by the high-level beast at the entryway, much less arriving at their current location. Abruptly, Cyrus' train of thought was broken by Sirius, who said going further would bring them close to the main antagonist chamber. Upon hearing this, Cyrus realized if they'd reached the leader's room, then Cyrus was no longer necessary. Irrespective of fortune or other factors, Cyrus had arrived at the conclusion. Now Cyrus stood beneath a razor-sharp point. So Cyrus drew his blade, and with some mystical energy, a major setback for Pinkshin. Dr. Lu voices her worries about the perils inside the remnants, as the elemental entities supposedly vanquish opponents. Without killing them, it's uncertain. If the Tamar lacks strength, Shu, who becomes apprehensive. Sirius examined the stone barrier and discovered it was finished. He was abruptly confined. A voice inquired about a human presence in the jail. Cyrus turned and saw a female. The lady, called Sadiel, stated a human nearby was repulsive. Sadie LS, B-level puppet scorpion monster, confronted Cyrus and his group. Tyre yelled for battle readiness. Bella was stressed, struggling to hoist her provided sword. Tyre commanded the tankers forward, restrict the monster's motion, preventing a breach. Tankers stood with shields lifted. Tyre directed archers to shoot swiftly from behind, capitalizing on the tanker's diversion. Archers obeyed, firing at the monster. Arrows struck the monster. Tyre urged archers to continue firing. The beast let out a tremendous roar, unleashing a power that deflected every launched arrow. Everyone struggled to remain standing against the force. Tyre was astonished that the creature's raw strength alone warded off all the projectiles, rendering their assault useless. Abruptly, Cyrus rose and questioned their frozen stances, urging them not to be intimidated by the beast's presence. Cyrus attempted to rally them, claiming they could easily overcome a single foe. Meanwhile, Cyrus detected another sound and pondered if it belonged to a second beast. A scorpion stinger suddenly emerged, striking at Cyrus, but Sirius somehow evaded it. Wondering what that was moments ago, the scorpion lunged at Sirius itself, but Sirius once more dodged the attack. He stood firm and challenged the beast to face his might. With an attack power of 3,190, with a single blow from Cyrus, the scorpion puppet's form was punctured and its components detonated and dispersed. Sadie was awestruck, observing Cyrus obliterate one of her scorpion puppets. With a single blow, Cyrus pondered the location of the cure. The remedy for his ailment was in the upcoming chamber where the leader resided. He couldn't waste energy on trivial fights. He considered using the map to flee. Escaping, Sadie approached and stated it was inconsequential. She intended to discard items tainted by repulsive humans, she informed Cyrus. She initially planned to use the beast to deform his face, but now she had to personally do it. Seeing Sadie, he was astonished by another female creature. Cyrus retorted his head wasn't a fruit, easily twisted off. Hearing this, Sadie declared she wouldn't touch his vile body. She then clarified, although he could handle outsiders barehanded, she was manipulating the scorpion marionettes manually. Using a thread, she informed Cyrus she would confront him initially, then eliminate the remaining people outside. Cyrus angrily proclaimed himself a champion. Safeguarding humankind was his responsibility. He would remain and battle her. Even if it depleted all his energy, he would obstruct her path. Sadiel assaulted Cyrus, questioning his sincerity. She forced him down with a single leg. In that instant, Cyrus' system initialized locking onto Sadiel. Sadiel stated, an overconfident individual was insignificant to her. Meanwhile, the scorpion automaton ceased combat. Observing this, Tyra gleefully urged everyone to witness the creature's crimson head, showing their assaults were becoming effective. Cyrus was astonished by Sadiel's speed. Sadiel remarked that Cyrus arriving there, given human capabilities, was remarkable. That's all Lord Nay despises humans entering his domain. She placed her other foot upon his face. But Sirius knew the creature was immensely powerful. He couldn't allow the beast outside. He had to halt her there, so he tilted his head back slightly and aggressively opened his jaws to bite her feet. Due to Sirius' action, she became flustered and exclaimed it was repulsive that Cyrus would do that to her feet. Meanwhile, as the monster fought, Bella observed the prolonged stillness. She believed Cyrus hadn't been knocked out by the stone. She needed to extract him. She called Tyr, requesting cover. As she prepared to retrieve Ceres from the debris, Tyr was stunned and urged her to wait. She bolted before he could answer. It was too late. As she fled, she prayed Cyrus was safe. The scorpion marionette spotted her and prepared to strike. Tyr intervened and parried the blow with his blade. Sustaining the block was a struggle. In the meantime, Bella still pondered Cyrus, a true champion. It's only rubble. I'll be all right on the far side. Sadie released Cyrus. He licked her feet, repulsed her. Cyrus was thankful to escape her hold. Cyrus' system alerted him no instant kill without a weapon. Hearing this, Cyrus was vexed. Cyrus grew irritated. Had have come armed. Knowing this, he would have carried a weapon. Cyrus had to resort to barehanded combat. He swung at Sadiel. She evaded and kicked his face. Kicking, she found his face squishy. The impact sent Cyrus flying into a rock. Sadiel confessed to enjoying kicking him. Cyrus was speechless and Sadiel grew anxious. Questioning her own actions, she resolved to swiftly beat Cyrus. Outsiders encountering Lord Nay's chamber would be problematic. She grabbed the demolished puppet monster's tail and launched an attack. Cyrus anticipated and evaded the strike. His nimbleness allowed him to sidestep assaults. He channeled magical power into his hand and severed the tail. But it was a ruse. While he was dividing the tail, Sadiel returned and ensnared Cirrus' face with her leg. Her demeanor and words completely changed as she trapped him, but her expression hinted at ulterior motives. Sadie declared this time she would asphyxiate him with her feet. Enraged, Cirrus grabbed her legs, resolved to make Sadiel experience his strength. The instant Cirrus made contact with her legs, Sadiel felt strange and rapidly retreated. But shortly, she trampled his face with her foot, angrily demanding he not touch her legs with his filthy hands. She even utilized the severed tail pieces to restrain his hand. Cirrus was astonished to see her use the scorpion tail he had just shattered, and her dominance was overwhelming. He couldn't dodge her blows. She placed her foot on his face again, declaring she would crush his face. As she pressed down on his face, Cirrus' strength surged, while Sadiel felt exhilarated as she kept her foot on his face until the unrest level hit 66%. She proclaimed humans were meant to be beneath her feet, but she trembled, and because of that, the monstrous puppet battling Cirrus and the others also shuddered, witnessing this quake. Exclaimed joyfully the beast had lost its footing. They should hold steady, victory was near. Sadie reveled in the moment, feeling fantastic. Bella raced towards the stone barrier as the scorpion stinger was about to strike. Tyre spotted it and yelled a warning, but it was too late. Struck by the appendage and launched airborne, smashing into the distant stones. Sadie was fondling Ceres in improper locations. He protested and implored her to cease touching, as she was forbidden near Cirrus. The tail was approaching, and Cirrus braced for impact. He somehow evaded it using his blade, but he observed that even from afar, the tail could pierce the barrier, meaning the creature's level exceeded that of an elite beast. Sadie found it incredibly soft and supple, and the unrest level hit 95%. Meanwhile, Cirrus was targeted by the scorpion marionette, and when Cirrus sensed the rear assault, it was too late. He saw the Scorpio princess approaching. Being tardy, he couldn't defend. Luckily, though, across the way, Sadia became completely frantic and started behaving bizarrely, as if she was being enticed. Because of that, the scorpion creature also convulsed and halted. Cirrus was astonished to see he deflected the assault, but he observed the beast was shrieking oddly. Seeing the monster so agitated, Cirrus believed it was his ideal opportunity, so he utilized his ferocious tiger, slashing blow assault on the scorpion marionette, and the puppet was launched away, plummeting to the earth. Witnessing that, everyone became joyful and commenced applauding Cirrus for his strength. As with a sole blow, he effortlessly obliterated that monster. Meanwhile, the agitation level was at 98%, which explains why Sadie was acting so peculiarly. Here the creature starts regurgitating and observing this. Everyone assumed that Cirrus' attack was so potent that it caused the beast to bellow in agony. They commended Cirrus, recognizing that with him present, they had no need to fear any magical creature crossing their path. Even Cirrus pondered this. The scorpion marionette appeared weak, as he could effortlessly vanquish that beast. Meanwhile, something occurred with Sadiel, and the creature stirred again, making everyone anxious as it wasn't fully eradicated. So Cirrus told everyone to move back and allow him to handle the scorpion marionette. He wanted them to observe their captain's true strength. Sadie was stressed, questioning what happened to her and why she was acting this way with a human form. She resolved to remain composed. Elsewhere, Sirius wondered what to do as her body was so durable, particularly her legs, and if this continued, she would completely deplete him. So Siri yelled that he would never yield to her, but she shoved her leg in his mouth to quiet him, demanding he be silent because she didn't want to hear his voice. Sirius experienced a déjà vu moment reminiscent of his encounter with Yu. He felt manipulated by the women, but during those instances his abilities surged, gaining over 2,000 points per instance. Meanwhile, the scorpion marionette battled Cirrus. However, due to Sadie L's seduction and subsequent rage, the creature fought with diminished capacity. Cirrus observed the creature's weakening strength. He unleashed his holy vortex, the creature succumbed. Everyone rejoiced at Cirrus utilizing his trademark maneuver to vanquish the creature. Then they realized the creature continued its incessant bellows. They whispered about Cirrus' immense power. He had pummeled the creature into senselessness, making it roar uncontrollably. Cirrus declared the creature a mere training dummy before him. Even Tyre commended Cirrus, stating, His strength was so immense he obliterated the creature with one blow. Meanwhile, Cyrus' defense augmented by 3304 points, and his reflexes boosted by 4210, making him considerably stronger. Sadiel was relishing the instance, but unexpectedly, she caught her master's voice, inquiring about the commotion outside. Hearing the sound, she stiffened and leaped from Cyrus. She retreated and anxiously pondered if it was finished. As for a second, she had truly overlooked Lord Nace's directive. She needed to swiftly eradicate the vile humans and atone for her transgression. Finally, Cyrus' offensive capabilities surged by 10,000. He grew so formidable, he emanated a murderous energy, and questioned Sadiel if she desired to keep toying with him. Sadiel became uneasy observing his demeanor, as it was utterly different previously. Cyrus' intimidating and domineering aura resembled Nisama. She contemplated if she had to battle someone such as him, witnessing his deadly purpose. She fled from him. Cyrus was perplexed why she departed, and if he ought to pursue her. Yet he opted to dismiss it, as his objective was to acquire the demon god's blood. In the final chamber, it was wiser to conserve physical energy, as Sadiel had already depleted much of his stamina. Meanwhile, as everyone commended Cyrus and his valor, Bella anxiously raced towards the stone barriers to locate Cyrus. But before she reached the barricade, she witnessed someone shattering it with their legs. When Sirius emerged, he was astonished to see Bella. Bella inquired if he was unharmed and uninjured. Sirius replied that he was perfectly well, but Bella, still scrutinizing everything, observed that he was coated in dust, and she voiced apprehension that although it might not be visible externally, there could be internal wounds. She even recommended he allow the medical staff to examine him. Cyrus chuckled and answered that he was genuinely all right. So Bella informed him that if he felt unwell, he should inform her right away. Cyrus replied with a simple all right. Meanwhile, Tyr was shaking with rage, apparently holding affection for Bella. Cyrus requested everyone's attention, declaring that from that point forward, they would trail behind him, as he desired them to observe his true power, as he was going to single-handedly conquer the boss. Upon hearing this, everyone was astonished and commenced applauding their leader's strength. Cyrus was overjoyed, believing that the dungeon's threat level was definitely not C rank. It was likely barely reaching D rank. So when he would report back to the guild and recount his accomplishments, it would undoubtedly result in an advancement, which was a considerable advantage for him. The scene then transitioned to Lord Nay's chambers, where Sadie informed Nay that there was an exceptionally strong human outside. She was clueless about his technique, but his initial frailty soared to unbelievable levels. In a flash, she cautioned Nay to be wary facing that human. In an odd tone, Nay inquired about Sadie L's orders. Anxiously, Sadie L directed her to secure the entrance and permit no being inside his chamber. Hearing this, Nay angrily questioned if she understood, then why she was outside with that human. Sadie became stressed and prepared to answer, but before she spoke, Nay struck her. A massive explosion erupted behind her, but the light beam pierced her, immediately vanquishing her. Nay yelled she refused to hear her weak justifications. Afterward, Nay lifted her magically and hurled her onto the remains of numerous creatures and people, declaring she should become kindling. At that instant, Sadiel whispered she didn't desire death, but when Sadiel was tossed onto the bodies, a pool materialized containing a verdant fluid. Nye stated that after such a lengthy wait, she was nearly complete, utilizing countless humans and creatures as fuel, and the demon god's blood had at last started to simmer. Abruptly, an individual burst into Nye's chamber, shattering the entrance. Detecting the noise of the door splintering, Nye inquired who possessed such audacity to intrude upon her quarters. Cyrus declared it was him. Her father arrived to discipline her severely. Cyrus observed the demon god's blood, and his instincts informed him that the demon god's blood could purge impurities from his physique. Upon ingesting it, Nye questions if Cyrus was the formidable human Sadiel reference. Cyrus ponders as well if the emerald liquid held the potential to cleanse him. Cyrus then implores everyone to heed him, declaring no actions without his orders. He aimed to solo the C-rank dungeon's boss. Everyone rallies behind Cyrus to conquer the boss, displaying humanity's strength and potential. Ceres was astonished by the object on the platform. It was the demon god's blood, Meanwhile, Cyrus raced towards Ney to vanquish him. Everyone cheered for Cyrus as he approached. Cyrus leaped skyward, telling Ney to experience his might. Ney countered with a thumb strike, unleashing a blinding yellow beam, incinerating Cyrus' armor. Cyrus was sent flying, crashing into the wall. Witnessing this, everyone panicked, rushing to Cyrus' aid. Ney questioned if Cyrus was humanity's strongest, deeming Sadiel utterly worthless. Cyrus was stunned. The monster's attack defied logic. It obliterated his rank armor in one blow. Luckily, he had on top-tier dragon scale armor, a gift from his sibling worn beneath, or had have surely perished. His comrades inquired about his well-being, but Cyrus remained deep in thought, pondering the subterranean labyrinth and the vast power discrepancies among creatures. Direct confrontation seemed unwise. Utilizing his squad would be more prudent, to deplete the beast's energy reserves, then head strike when the monster was weakened, thus improving his odds of victory. Cyrus rose and commanded obedience to advance and display their skills. But terror intervened, cautioning against a hasty attack. An unorganized onslaught could lead to needless losses. He advised maintaining their prior arrangement, with protectors wielding substantial shields up front. Cyrus angrily inquired if Tyr doubted his assessment or aimed to disobey his directives. Tyr nervously replied he wouldn't dare. Cyrus told Tyr to be silent and follow orders. Cyrus commanded everyone to arm themselves and advance, promising unwavering support. Courage was unnecessary. All consented and furiously approached the dungeon foe Ney. Ney prepared to retaliate and declared, "Foolish humans approach their doom, their essence unfit for sacrifice. Altar fuel." Ney bellowed. She would display the divide between human and beast, unleashing a massive despair-inducing assault. Many were incinerated. Cyrus rescued Bella and Mark, pulling them from harm's way. Most suffered burns, some were wounded. Cyrus narrowly avoided the onslaught. His blade was reduced to cinders. Cyrus was astonished to witness his own weapon obliterated. Ney then soared into the sky and inquired if Cyrus hadn't promised he would make her experience dread. Cyrus understood he couldn't triumph in this predicament, so he swiftly contemplated escaping. Tyr was astounded to observe the charred remains of his comrades, but to his amazement, he spotted Cyrus attempting to flee, yelling for everyone to withdraw. Those still living heeded his order and exited the boss chamber. Tyr became enraged hearing that from Cyrus, but to Cyrus' surprise, his hand was seized. When Cyrus glanced back, it was none other than Cyrus. Cyrus grasped his hand, stating that Cyrus had just declared he was the unwavering support for the team, and his fight against the boss wasn't finished. Therefore, Cyrus couldn't depart. Cyrus attempted to wrench his hand free from Cyrus' grasp, but it was futile as he couldn't loosen Cyrus' hold. Cyrus declared himself leader, his commands absolute. If Cyrus chose to perish, had gladly join him, but wouldn't force Cyrus along. Even Ney angrily questioned how Cyrus dared invade her territory and disrupt her chambers. Still yearning to flee, Ney launched another assault. Cyrus panicked, frantically yelling at Ceres, branding him an idiot for ignoring the danger. As the dungeon master prepared another radiant blast, he attempted escape, tugging his hand, but discovered his hand immobile, bewildered by Cyrus' iron grip. Cyrus pleaded release as the boss targeted them. Cyrus remained steadfast, infuriating Cyrus, believing he could solo the boss. Unable to free himself from Cyrus' grasp, enraged, he lunged. Cyrus countered, seizing and twisting his arm. Cyrus cried out in anguish from the pain. Cyrus yanked Cyrus toward himself and lifted him, poised to hurl him at Ney. He bellowed that as their leader, Cyrus must honor his commitments. The instant Ney launched her assault, Ceres propelled Cyrus toward the ray, declaring he should be a staunch ally for his squad. He commanded Cyrus to intercept the boss strike with his form and shield his comrades during the withdrawal. Cyrus directly slammed into the light beam, giving everyone else a chance to escape. They fled outside as Cyrus was wounded by the ray. One companion was shocked at the sight. Following that, Cyrus glared at Ney, angrily yelling, "It's his moment now." Bella conveys her desire to remain. Tyr concurs with Bella, stating he also wishes to stay and confront the beast. Bella replies that he need not remain. She's remaining due to Cyrus. Tyr admitted his awareness, but he was the top-ranked B-class champion, and he arrived to eradicate creatures so he would never flee. He also stated he didn't want to follow orders from that fool. Cyrus once more. Conversely, Nia inquired why Cyrus didn't escape after seeing her strength, implying Cyrus was underestimating her. Nay then proceeds to discharge the ray again, but Cyrus responds with a rapid body cut, making Nay recoil and withdraw her hand. Nye grew enraged as Cyrus was incredibly quick. Shockingly, Cyrus began sprinting towards the demon god's blood shrine. Nye pondered why the human was heading for the shrine. She soon questioned if it was plausible that the man's objective wasn't to slay her, but instead to acquire the demon god's blood. Cyrus was constantly dashing towards the shrine, as he was merely meters from it. Nay hollered at Cyrus to keep away from her shrine, but then Bella and Tyre ambushed Nay from the rear, claiming it was their ideal chance. Shockingly, Nia effortlessly blocked both their blades and then targeted Cyrus, calling Cyrus a real scoundrel with the speed of a roach. Bella yelled at Nia, warning her against striking Cyrus. Both Tyre and Bella attempted to force Nay back, and just as Nay launched her assault, her footing faltered slightly, throwing off her aim. Cyrus also evaded the strike due to the inaccurate targeting. Cyrus then gleefully leaped toward the shrine, believing he nearly achieved his goal. But the instant he neared the shrine, he noticed a magical formation and tensed up at the sight. And as soon as he contacted the formation, an explosion erupted and he was repelled from the shrine. Nay revealed the magical formation was her own creation, and as long as she lived, no living being could breach it. Sirius concurred with her, recognizing that a direct assault and forcefully consuming the demon's divine blood to purify wasn't viable. They had to vanquish the leader to advance. Suddenly Cyrus noticed something within the wall crevices. Meanwhile, Nay tossed Bella and Mark, calling them both presumptuous imbeciles who misjudged their capabilities. Both Bella and Tyre crashed to the earth forcefully, sustaining minor wounds elsewhere. Sirius was astonished to see the identical female creature, who had recently fled from him, and he pondered how she arrived there. At that moment Nia was quivering, and implored Sirius to remain silent, and to conceal her presence from Nia. Nia stated his ceremony demanded a tranquil and serene disposition, so after eliminating them, he would subdue his rage. Witnessing this, Cyrus grew anxious, fearing Bella was in peril. So before departing, Cyrus positioned the kale mushroom before Sadiel. Observing this, Sadiel ponders the kale mushroom and its restorative properties. Cyrus raced toward Bella, yelling he's coming from the opposite direction. Sadiel consumed the mushroom. Afterward, she wept with joy. Cirrus' system indicates the female monster. Sadiel grew affectionate towards the host, allowing the host to fulfill the weapon's activation criteria, therefore unlocking weaponry choices. Abruptly, numerous unidentified cards with question mark symbols materialize before him, and the system states initially he must review the weapon's comprehensive description. Usage guidelines. Conversely, Tyre appears before Bella to defend her, claiming he'll stall it and she needs to flee swiftly. Bella replies her leg bone fractured again, so he must leave without her. Here Cirrus demands the system bypass the rules explanation, as he's about to save people immediately. He had no time for foolishness. The system bypassed that, prompting Cirrus to select a card. Cirrus picked a card at random. He obtained a sword bathed in crimson light. The system announced he acquired the exploding garment, Divine Sword. Heavenly Blade. Furiously, Cirrus lunged towards Nay, challenging her to experience his new weapon's might and perish. He then struck her. She effortlessly caught his sword, laughing, declaring Cirrus had fallen for her trap. Both Bella and Tyr were decoys. Her true objective was him. She unleashed a radiant beam, questioning his escape at such close proximity. He yelled, refusing to be underestimated. He never intended to evade. He swung the sword with maximum force. It merely grazed Nay's hand. She mocked him, highlighting that despite his full strength, he barely scratched her. Not a drop of blood was spilled. She clarifies the distinction between beasts and mankind. Suddenly her garment rips from above. Witnessing this, she becomes flustered and awkwardly inquires about her missing attire. Bella and Tyre felt awkward too. Cyrus undressed the leader, Cyrus was also anxious, since the creature was formidable. His display reveals the exploding clothing divine blade. Upon impact with the blade, would detonate adversaries' clothing. An exposed foe would activate the ultimate technique, divine blade descent. Nay became enraged at Cyrus for his shameful tactic. She vowed to obliterate him. Cyrus attempted another slash, but she evaded it. Cyrus recalled grazing her hand, rupturing her upper garments. Simply put, he needs one more try. A leg strike could remove her undergarment. Head then dislodge her mask, initiating the final blow. Therefore, he just needs proximity to the boss and repeated skill usage. Swift body slash Sirius believed Nay couldn't flee, and head strike her. Suddenly Sirius display showed. The user's current magical capacity only allowed swift body slash 6 instances. With a 10-second cooldown period, a new target permitted. Instant skill activation. Sirius felt disheartened, deeming the skill useless. The system inquired about skill deactivation. Sirius firmly refused. Sirius decided if that's so, he'd reluctantly try. He angrily charged toward Nay with a rapid body strike, but Nay leaped into the air, evading the assault. Cyrus grew stressed because he flubbed the hit again. Meanwhile, Nay pondered why Cyrus aimed for her legs, when her top was already ripped open. Did Cyrus desire to remove her garment as well? Just then Cyrus lunged again for an assault, but this time Nay fiercely kicked his face. Cyrus sustained a major blow to his face, sending him soaring through the air from the impact. Somehow, using his blade, he managed to halt himself and land on the earth. However, he was in agony as his nose was nearly fractured, inflicting him immense suffering. However, he then recalled the unbearable agony of his flesh dissolving after the poison erupted, and he recognized that the ache of his broken nose was trivial. In comparison, Cyrus becomes enraged and dashes towards Nay to strike, yelling that the minor hurt was insignificant to him. Gradually, each moment felt like forever as Cyrus approached Nay and as he got to her. The timer hit 1. He realized he could strike now. While running, Nay attempted a laser beam assault, but Cyrus evaded the laser fire. Nay was stressed observing it. So Cyrus initiates an attack with a rapid body strike from a collision, questioning how Nay would avoid the close-range assault. Cyrus struck her believing he landed the blow, but he actually hit her tail, and she was airborne. Nay states she never intended to flee. She exclaims, if not for her fear of revelation, she could execute greater maneuvers, and with just his velocity, she could have obliterated him ages ago. Sirius became anxious as Nay unleashed a laser beam attack. He attempted to evade it with a skill and tried counterattacking, but the display indicated his skill was cooling down. Cyrus grew impatient, questioning why 10 seconds felt so lengthy. He had to confront her directly. Cyrus swung his blade without using any special abilities, exerting his maximum strength. He somehow diverted the energy beam. A massive explosion erupted from the impact of the beam and his sword strike. Even Tyr was astonished and questioned how Cyrus blocked the boss assault head-on. It appeared improbable. His combat prowess was merely F rank. Prior to the mission, even as a B rank warrior with such skill, he couldn't interfere. Cyrus felt elated. Understanding the sword's true power was remarkable. He chuckled and told Nay he could now retaliate and effortlessly dodging her blows, rendering them ineffective. Nay concurs Cyrus was correct. It's truly challenging for her to eliminate him. She then targets Bella, bewildering Cyrus. She states annihilating the woman would be simple. With a wounded foot, she prepares to unleash the ray. So Cyrus rapidly employs the quick body slash and strikes the fingertip from which she was assaulting. He manages to shatter the nail, but he's too slow as she discharges her attack. At that moment, Cyrus initially felt joyful, but realizing Bella was now imperiled, he became anxious and raced towards her to rescue her. Observing this, Nia chuckled and remarked that she understands. Foolish humans always perform these heroic acts, which explains why heroes often perish by villains' treachery. She finally declared he had been tricked and struck with her other hand. Conversely, Cyrus understood he was too slow to reach them, and now he had one option remaining. Knowing the swift body slash would act instantly. When he shifted the objective, he selected Bella as his aim and utilized swift body slash. Thus he could deflect the assault. but he fractured the armor of Bella and Mark. Even Tyre was astonished to see the impact destroyed his armor. Na was amazed that Cirrus evaded it once more. Abruptly, she saw the altar displaying strange activity, and she knew she was engrossed in the fight, that she neglected to fuel the demon god's blood warmth. If she didn't promptly maintain the altar's temperature, all prior attempts would be futile, and she'd need to wait another century. Meanwhile, Bella starts behaving as if she's being tempted and ponders why she's feeling peculiar and overheated. His reading showed the unrest level at 91%, suggesting she felt something genuine. And now she was trapped, so she felt even more drawn to him. Bella approaches Sirius and cups his face, like she was about to kiss him. Seeing this, Tyr was also taken aback. With her so close to kissing him, Sirius recalls a past memory of Bella at age 8. It reveals she looks quite frightening. She inquires what he's looking at, if he's never seen a beautiful woman, or if he wants a kiss. The scene shifts back to the present, where Sirius nervously recoils, claiming he didn't want to kiss her. Tyr also questions Bella, what's wrong with her, and if she was going to kiss Sirius. Bella wonders if she just tried to kiss Sirius, that her body acted independently, and she even stuck her tongue out, all while still in the middle of a fight. Bella grew anxious and felt very self-conscious. Her entire face flushed crimson. Tyr angrily inquired why her face remained so red, and why she was perspiring. He wondered if she was intoxicated or merely hallucinating, and her body was uncontrollable. He was certain she was delusional. Otherwise, she would not have acted so strangely. Meanwhile, Nay concentrated on the platform, as once the evil spirit's blood cooled, it would require another century to reheat it. She then dragged the bodies of the creatures and people, explaining she did not desire to wait that long again. So this time, she had to fully evaporate the blood of the evil spirit. Hearing this, Cyrus became anxious and asked if NEA truly intended to evaporate the blood of the evil spirit. He then realized he needed to act swiftly, but the adversary was incredibly quick. He could barely touch the enemy. Then only one option remained, to amplify his power, until the enemy couldn't evade his attack. Meanwhile, Nay placed the bodies on the altar as fuel, wondering if it was sufficient to heat the altar to its highest level. Aims to instantly activate the explosive garment's ultimate ability, Holy Blade, and obliterate Nay. So Ceres approaches Bella and informs her he devised a plan to conquer the enemy, but requires her assistance. Bella inquires what. Sirius replies that if they engage in intimate actions, like embraces and kisses, he could amplify his power and vanquish the foe. Hearing this, both Bella and Tyr feel awkward, and even Tyr questions how Sirius can utter such indecent words. With a solemn look, Sirius grasps Bella's hand and states he understands it's difficult for her, but he implores her. Bella is so captivated she doesn't know how to react, but Tyr cuts them off by removing Cirrus' hands from her. Tyr angrily exclaims that it all sounds like nonsense. He thinks Cirrus obviously wants to exploit Bella, and they're amidst a fight. Yet Cirrus is focused on indecent thoughts. What a lecher Cirrus is. Tyr then faces Bella to warn her against Cirrus, but to his astonishment, Bella tells Cirrus she believes him. Tyr is completely dumbfounded, and then Bella touches Cirrus' shoulder, saying it was awkward for her too. So not to misunderstand, she only consented because she wants the monster leader defeated, and she really had no intention to do those things. As Bella held Cirrus' face, Cirrus recalls the childhood memory, when Bella was about to kiss him, and he was afraid to look at her and listen to her. Back then he yelled he was done playing, but recalling the present moment, he tenses up, mentally screaming at Bella to stop. Just like as a kid, he shoved her away. Sirius pushes her back, saying that was close. He almost died. His system shows Tyre suffered a major blow. Bella wondered why Sirius rejected her. Sirius gets a notification he leveled up, and all stats gained 5,000 points. Seeing this, Sirius was stunned and knew it was due to Mark. He was relieved he didn't have to touch Bella and relive that awful experience. Sirius tells Bella if it's too hard for her, they shouldn't do it. He'll defeat the boss alone. Bella felt sad and asked Sirius to hold on, asking what if he still lost, and needed her assistance. Bella's frustration level peaked at 99%. Sirius reacted with a mocking expression, declaring he didn't need her assistance. He then raced towards Nay, Overhearing a refusal, Nay felt wounded and inquired why. She even pondered why Sirius displayed zero interest in her. Tyre interjected, stating he understood. Sirius surpassed him in strength, explaining her infatuation with Cyrus. Yet he still wished to inquire. Bella questioned if it was that situation again. The perspective switched to Sirius, contemplating that to unleash the final blow, he needed to strike the head and legs simultaneously. Previously, he nearly grazed the boss leg. Now his attributes were boosted by 50 points, given the right chance. Employing swift body / guaranteed success. On Nay's end, confusion arose as the altar remained unconnected. Puzzled by the persistent low temperature, if she didn't remedy it promptly, the temperature would plummet. So she considered utilizing the tainted humans to compensate for a modicum of heat. Nye soars towards Cyrus and instructs him to take pride, as they were destined to be the fuel for her offering, which was the ultimate accolade she could bestow upon them. She then divulges it's time to unleash her full potential. So she commences gathering her full might centrally to assault all. At once Ceres was also astonished to witness it as the sphere materialized with immense power. When Nay fiercely lunges towards him, he endeavors to intercept it with his blade. But as he was parrying, he received notification that his magic points were dwindling. Gradually, but inevitably, his magic points were approaching zero. Finally, he barely manages to divert the assault, but his entire magic reserve nearly depletes. Now he possesses a mere 11 magic points. His skills are unusable due to insufficient mana. Things got serious. He felt powerless and lost. Naivezoi. She revealed his magical exhaustion. The fight was finished. Ceres was uncertain. Shockingly, Bella embraced his face, declaring his need for assistance. She pulled his face to her bosom, leaving Mark stunned and devastated. Sirius believed Tyr was a noble soul. Bella recalled informing Tyr long ago. Her heart belonged to another. Her affections remained constant, leaving both Tyr and her heartbroken. Cyrus gained 5 levels, radiating brilliance. Cyrus felt an internal power surge. He got a message. All his attributes increased by 27,500. Nay was astonished witnessing this, believing it was unthinkable. Ciri should have zero chance to retaliate against her currently. Ciri radiated intensely, as if possessing a supreme power. Nay declared regardless of his strength increase, he remained a mere mortal. Before monsters, he was insignificant like an insect. As she spoke, Cyrus charged towards her, unleashing a full-force assault. Nay retorted she could effortlessly evade such strikes. However, Ciri rapidly slashed her form. Nay was oblivious during Cyrus' attack, but when her disguise was shredded, she was stunned. He had actually shattered her mask. With that blow, Ciri's system displayed the ultimate technique. Holy Sword Descent was now accessible. Nay angrily exclaimed, "How dare he mar her visage?" She then amassed her energy into a concentrated ray. The magnitude of a sphere. Cyrus also assaulted Nay, and she attempted a counteroffensive. A massive explosion rocks the chamber. The ray hits her too. The whole floor is obliterated instantly, leaving only the strip of land where Cyrus stood. Even Bella and Tyr are significantly affected by the detonation. Once the haze clears, Cyrus spots Na lying senseless on the earth. Thinking he's victorious, Cyrus' display shows a countdown of 20 seconds for the heavenly blade descent. He sprints towards the shrine, but is stunned to find the enchanted platform still functioning. He ponders why the mystical altar hasn't shut down. Abruptly, he catches Nay's inquiry. Did he assume he had triumphed? Should never permit vile mortals to defile the demonic deity's lifeblood. Cyrus observes 9 seconds remain on the timer. He yells at Nay, "Hell, finish her in 9 seconds. But then Cyrus glances at Bella and notices her life force is critically low. Near death's door, Nay rises, proclaiming she won't let him succeed. While she still draws breath, she dares Sirius to step up and determine the victor. Humankind or beast. Sirius faces a dire predicament, saving Bella and Tyr, or battling for the demon god's essence. He chooses Bella and Mark, forsaking Nay. Sirius rapidly soars toward the doorway. Nay feels momentary respite as they exit, believing humans are truly naive. Meanwhile, Sirius commands the map to reveal and locate the quickest path out. He must reach the hospital swiftly. Just as he escapes the chamber, creatures assault him. Sirius promptly prepares to combat them. Bella lies still unconscious. Remembering her youth, she recalls everyone mocking her, ridiculing her looks, and wondering who would desire to kiss her. Bella still yearns to participate in the house game, but others mockingly propose she act as a gorilla. Back then, Sirius was drawing near her, and some kids attempted to caution him against approaching her, claiming he would become contaminated and transform into a hideous monster. Shockingly, Sirius strikes one of the boys. The scene transitions to the present, where Sirius effortlessly vanquishes the creature with a rapid body-slash assault in the meantime. In Bella's dream, the kid who was struck by Sirius is weeping. Sirius informs Bella that the game is not yet finished, clarifying that since he's a male and she's a female, he should portray the father and she should portray the mother. He vows to assume responsibility for her. Presently, after conquering the monster, Cyrus assures Bella that she will be alright. Meanwhile, from Naya's perspective, she gazes at the shrine, knowing she must add more fuel to keep the warmth and prevent it from dropping. Left with no alternative, Nay chose to give herself for the reason. Elsewhere, Sirius was combating creatures blocking his path. In the main chamber, Nay fractured as she hurled herself onto the platform as fuel. Before fully perishing, she cried to the sacred fiend deity that she could no longer attend him. Concurrently, Sirius contends with the dragon beast using his blade to strike, but the moment he vanquished the dragon beast, his detonating robe, holy blade vanished. His interface informed him the foe was defeated, and the armament returned to the interface. The interface stated the armament would be accessible again in 12 hours, so Sirius reasoned it was inconsequential. As they neared the departure, the location changes to outside the dungeon's exit, where Sirius and some companions are visible. Everyone is ecstatic to have survived the labyrinth, while Cyrus pondered his near-death experience. In the subterranean dungeon, he remembers his dragon scale armor being destroyed, all thanks to that wretched Cyrus. He assumes Cyrus should have been vanquished by the final boss. By this point, abruptly, someone spots Cyrus approaching with Bella and Tyre, and they announce Cyrus' survival. Cyrus is astonished by the revelation and appears quite solemn. Cyrus grabs a blade from a comrade and yells, asking how Cyrus had the audacity to shadow them. And try to flee, he requests clarification from Ceres, inquiring how he disobeyed his commands and attempted escape as leader. Cyrus proclaims that Ceres forfeited his position within the exploration party and asserts that he won't utilize the guild's healing supplies to extend Cyrus' existence any further. Cyrus then exclaims he's going to guarantee it, right there on the spot, and readies himself to strike. Shockingly, however, Cyrus strikes Cyrus' face with a kick and uses him as a springboard to leap ahead, declaring he has no moments to squander on him. Cyrus seemed to be senseless, while the rest were stunned and yelling at Cyrus, asking how he had the audacity to assault their leader. One member hollered and alerted everyone it was Cyrus, since Cyrus kicked the captain, rendering him unconscious. They needed to rush and transport the captain to the medical facility. The setting then changed to the guild infirmary, where orderlies were observed sprinting with Bella and Tyr on gurneys. Proclaiming a critical situation, Sirius experienced comfort. After confirming Bella and Tyr were brought to the hospital securely, he opted to rapidly go back to the labyrinth, as he was merely a single action from acquiring the fiend divine essence to counteract the toxin. The locale changed to the prison, where a crimson fluid radiated from the platform. Slowly, it ascended and materialized into an anthropomorphic form. Sadie witnessed everything and pondered the nature of the being Boss Nay had conjured while immolating herself. As he beheld his metamorphosed visage, it appears Nay masqueraded as Bio publicly, and her true gender remained concealed. The scarlet substance coalesced into a dress-like silhouette, and a hand materialized from within. As the hand emerged, the ambience intensified. Sensing the aura, Sadiel tensed and characterized it as an unnerving sensation, like countless needles piercing her very marrow. A creature with a human semblance materialized from the crimson matter, and mused that the spectacle felt remarkably recognizable, as if it were genuinely her own realm. Upon her initial manifestation as a Thoth, youthful physique but feminine hair, Sadiel, experiencing the intense feeling, nervously attempted to flee, believing the area was growing perilous. Asathoth detected Sadiel's aura and neared the barrier. Nudging it gently with a fingertip, the whole wall crumbled, alarming the creatures on the level above. As they questioned their floor's destruction, Asathoth orchestrated this to uncover the individual she sensed. Following the descent, each beast was injured, and pondered if Bosne was responsible. However, one yelled for all to look upwards, indicating the subterranean chamber had given way, and the heavens were visible. They wondered if the destruction was Bosne's doing, but swiftly rejected the notion, recognizing it demanded someone with superior strength. Possessed as they deliberated, Asathoth intervened, declaring Nay deceased, and she required an attendant. Upon hearing this, the creatures became anxious and deliberated whether to flee or remain. One creature approached Asathoth, claiming their ancestry had persevered because of their tremendous strength, and they were ready to serve someone mightier than the leader. Suddenly, everyone else exclaims they desire to serve as well. But Asathoth yells they are all hideous and obliterates them. Asathoth proclaims she doesn't want unsightly followers. She then approaches Cediel, praising her beauty, and commands Cediel to gaze upward and part her lips. With tearful eyes, Cediel parts her lips, and Azazoth spills her blood within, ordering her to imbibe. Cediel experiences an abrupt shift within her form, detecting a novel feeling, as though her physique commences mending itself. Asathoth nears Cediel and says Cediel's form should feel quite relaxed, because her blood can mend all wounds, bolster defenses, and increase power. Asathoth continues that during the absorption process, it might give Cediel great satisfaction. Asathoth then informs Cediel that night is falling, and suggests she locate a tidy chamber awaiting her. Cediel, uncertain what to reply, concurs with a nod. The setting changes to the guild's base, where Darren is seen gripping Cyrus' head. Darren, clearly enraged, asks what Cyrus stated about the operation flopping. Cyrus expresses remorse to Darren and clarifies that if his leadership role is lost, Aaron would be obligated to assume command and examine the remaining resources of the guild's investigative unit. He implores Darren to devise a remedy to the predicament. Cyrus further attempts to communicate that if it's revealed they've been covertly peddling the guild's assets, it would be a grave matter. However, Darren shoves Cyrus back and yells at him to hush, claiming he already knows. Darren then inquires if Cyrus just stated someone on his squad defied his commands. Cyrus affirms this and says the individual's name is Cyrus. Darren examines the document and notes Cyrus is a low-ranking hero. He directs Cyrus to shoulder all blame for the debacle on Cyrus and decrees he be executed for desertion. The location changes to the dungeon, where Cyrus is bewildered to see its ruined condition. He races toward the altar to verify if his remedy is safe, but he's stunned to find it vacant. Meanwhile, Cediel patiently anticipates Azazoth seated quietly. Abruptly, Azazoth rests her hands on Cediel's shoulders, leading Cediel to request Azazoth to refrain. Unexpectedly, Azazoth embraces Cediel from behind, and Cediel is astonished. She senses something delicate against her back. Cediel initially mistook Azazoth for a male, becomes perplexed trying to reconcile this belief with the gentle feeling she experiences. Suddenly, Azazoth murmurs in Cediel's ear, enchanting her and breaking the embrace. Flustered, Cediel turns and is astonished to see Azazoth, now transformed into a true female. Azazoth inquires if Cediel dislikes embraces. Bewildered, Cediel asks about Azazoth's transformation. Azazoth explains it's nothing unusual, as darkness weakens her, reverting her to her genuine form. A girl, Azazoth adds that at night, Cediel must safeguard her and neutralize any threats against her. She cautions Cediel against harming or fleeing, as ingesting her blood by day lets Azazoth harmonize with Cediel's blood, possibly dissolving Cediel's body instantly. Even after dark, Cediel must dutifully heed her commands. Meanwhile, Sirius is stressed as he scours the depths, seeking the demonic deity's essence. Unable to locate it, he ponders if the demonic deity's lifeblood is concealed within the labyrinth. With optimism, Cyrus requests the system display the chart to meticulously examine each area. Here, Azazoth conveys to Cediel that she didn't desire this outcome, but her core is confined within the Champions Alliance, restricting her from achieving full potential. Consequently, at nightfall, she reverts to a frail mortal. But if she awaits sunrise, and replenishes the demonic deity's strength. They will journey to the Champion's Alliance headquarters to reclaim her essence. Then every creature globally, regardless of time, will again yield to her immense power. Suddenly, Sadiel detects approaching footfalls. She decides to investigate. Asaf halts Sadiel and directs her that in any combat, she must remain within a 5-kilometer perimeter. Asazoth cautions that if Sadiel surpasses this limit, she'll view it as an escape attempt and menace to disintegrate her form. Asazoth inquires Sadiel again if she comprehends, and Sadiel replies affirmatively. Elsewhere, Cirrus system notifies him that the demon god's blood is in NEA's subterranean prison. Cirrus is pleased to discover it's truly in the dungeon. Cirrus sprints to the chamber where Asazoth and Sadiel reside, believing it's the dungeon's final uninspected room. Prior to his arrival at the chamber, Sadiel conceals herself next to the entrance, prepared to strike him when Sadiel assaults Cirrus with a kick. He effortlessly evades it. Sadiel is stunned to recognize it's the same human encountered earlier that morning. Meanwhile, Azathoth experiences a peculiar sensation and ponders what's occurring as her form convulses involuntarily. This typically happens when she's near her core. Sadiel inquires why Cyrus returned when Nay had perished. She implores him to depart the prison. Before sunrise, Cyrus is astonished to see Sadie's physique, which has recovered sufficient energy to battle. He then queries Sadie if she relished the fungal delicacy he offered. Upon hearing this, she becomes flustered and replies it was unappetizing. It was the most repulsive fungus she had ever consumed. She commands him to leave, but Cirrus system indicates Sadie's approval rating is at 71%. Cirrus is delighted to observe this and remarks she is reddening, and her fondness for him is greater than anticipated. Before he could conclude speaking, she strikes him, stating he was uttering gibberish, and she held no affection for him. She kicks again, this time impacting her own face and crushing it, declaring her sentiments toward humans were simply abhorrent. But unexpectedly, to her astonishment, he vanished from under her leg. She is shocked, and upon turning, she notices him sprinting to the chamber. Sadie ponders his escape. After stomping on his face, Siri states he has pressing issues. They can play later as he arrives at the entrance. He feels the demon god's blood is involved before he can unlock the door. Hey! Sadiel inquires why Asazoth emerged, due to Cirrus touching her chest. She angrily grips his hand and crushes it. Suddenly, a flash of light appears. She is amazed it's her heart. She questions her heart's placement in a human. Cirrus shoved Asazoth away, demanding release, asking her intentions. Cirrus system declared the girl was his demon god blood. Cyrus was astonished and pondered how his cure became a person. Instinctively, he seized her hand and sliced her palm to consume her blood. He then imbibes her blood, questioning if her blood could be his remedy. Following Cirrus' action, Azathoth feels peculiar and convulses after ingesting the blood. Cirrus' system indicates his toxin remained, and his time left was 101 days. Cirrus inquires and wonders how her blood was useless as a. Thoth grins, thinking since she became a human, her blood was naturally futile. Suddenly, Sadie disrupts them by striking Cyrus' hand and demanding he release Azathoth. But Cyrus effortlessly evaded the blow and retreated. Azathoth then ponders how her heart was consumed by a human and converted into an essence contained within his impure body. So now, if she desires to reclaim her power, she must forcefully retrieve that piece from him. His form would melt into a crimson puddle. As a consequence for utilizing her abilities without consent, Ceres pondered if other bodily fluids might possess the curative properties. He chose to abduct her first and contemplate later. As he inched toward Azathoth, unexpectedly, something materialized from below. It was a creature named Ghana. A formidable boss-level being, Ghana exclaimed joyfully, and informed Azathoth that even across vast distances, she detected her aura, and the feeling overwhelmed her inner stirrings. Ghana added that she had always kept the bell, gifted to her by Azathoth, demonstrating her enduring affection. Ghana inquired if she could consume her now, declaring that afterward Azathoth would be hers alone. Sadiel was astonished, while Azathoth appeared anxious. But abruptly, to her amazement, Cirrus scooped her up and sprinted toward the opening. Leaping out mid-jump, he pondered how a powerful, high-ranking creature could materialize so abruptly. So he decided to get Asath to safety Ghana also vaulted through the gap, trailing Sirius, yelling for him to return Asaph and stop fleeing. Moments later, the scene cut to the Adventurers Guild, where Cyrus had brought Azathoth. Believing it secure, he was glad to have finally evaded Ghana, who had been pursuing him. Cyrus sat next to Azathoth. Azathoth nervously inquired where he had taken her. Cyrus replied it was the Heroes Guild in Sector Z. His residence. Upon hearing this, she brightened, thinking if true, her scheme would be simpler. Upon reclaiming her strength, she could unleash devastation, and they'd all suffer consequences for meddling with her affections. So Azathoth rose and grasped Cyrus' face. With a distressed look, revealed she was afflicted by a fearsome creature, and if she didn't soon find a human partner, she'd perish, so please rescue her. Sirius declared himself a virtuous champion, and would never capitalize on someone's weakness. Yet Azathoth leaped onto Sirius with a sorrowful expression, conveyed her profound torment, imploring him to save her. Hearing this, Sirius grew anxious, and questioned how Head stumbled into such a disgraceful predicament. His conscience urged that he must never prey on another's fragility, lest his noble spirit endure excruciating agony. But soon he reasoned as a hero. It was his duty to aid those suffering. He couldn't remain idle. Ceres contacted Azathoth, believing he would sacrifice himself for her and endure the heartache alone. Meanwhile, as Azathoth went in for a kiss, she planned to reclaim her strength after extracting his essence and obliterate them all. But up close, Ceres noticed something between her legs and puzzled, inquired about the tail and its presence. Ceres recalled tails belonging at the rear, and as Azathoth was up front, it signified male genitalia. Shocked, Ceres forcefully shoved Azathoth away. Frightened, he stumbled backward, causing Yug to tumble from his pocket. Ceres vehemently questioned Azathoth about the sword between her legs. Azathoth neared Ceres and enticingly reminded him of his agreement. Azathoth knew dawn approached. Her physique began shifting. This implied Azathoth possessed a split persona. By day, her form became masculine. At night, she reverted to a maiden in human guise. She placed her hand on his leg, again nearing a kiss, stating Sirius couldn't renege on his promise. Sirius felt strained, uncertain of his next move. To his comfort, an unforeseen event unfolded as Yug commenced transforming. Azaph, bewildered, inquired about his companion's state. In moments, Yug fully reverted to monstrous form and declared her ravenous hunger. Famished, Yug again beseeched Sirius for aid, calling him her lord. Sirius spied a chance and informed Asaph that Yug required his assistance more direly. He would aid Yug initially, then attend to Asaph. Azathoth speechless, without a response. Yug pondered Sirius' tiny pocket, preventing her from fully extending. Meanwhile, Sirius dashed to the kitchen, claiming if Yug felt hungry, had prepare a meal. He began cooking, wondering how he found time. Under the pretense of cooking, he contemplated his next move if he failed to rescue Azathoth. She'd perish, and he was defenseless. He wondered if mating with Azathoth was necessary. Indecision fueled his frustration. While cooking, Azathoth approached from behind, believing she could wait till morning to recover her strength. Ceres saw her, but feigned ignorance. Observing this, Azathoth deduced his reluctance. She figured if Ceres refused cooperation, she'd force him into bizarre acts. Suddenly, Asphalt neared Ceres and was going to touch that spot, but Ceres swiftly snatched the meal and dashed outside toward Yug. He stated he had finished the food prep and had to assist Jug outside first. Asphalth got enraged because her mortal form was too frail to subdue Cyrus. When Sirius left the kitchen, he saw Yug's tail sticking out of the washroom, making him curious. When he peeked inside, he was astonished to find Yug gulping toilet cleanser. He pondered if she'd be all right after ingesting it. Shockingly, Yug was cheerful and grinning, claiming it was tasty. Later, Yug was consuming the meal, so Asaph approached Cyrus and declared she'd already made Yug's food, and now it was her chance. Cyrus told Asaph to relax and hear him out. Unexpectedly, Asphodel went berserk and yelled she wanted no justifications. She desired action immediately right then. His interface displayed the weapon return deadline had commenced while Azathoth remained frantic. She ripped Ceres' garments to shreds, leaving him stunned and barely clothed. Azathoth flushed inched towards Cirrus meanwhile. Cirrus' system notified him of the mandatory mission completion, requiring him to sprint through streets and greet 33 individuals. Observing this, he was enraged and proclaimed he would never perform such acts. Abruptly, his system cautioned that mission failure would result in reversed advanced paradise retrieval. A portal materialized behind Cirrus, gradually unsealing. Cirrus anxiously awaited the reveal. Its opening unveiled numerous male mannequins, beckoning him to join their games. Siri exclaimed. It felt scarier than sprinting down the road naked. Siri, unclothed, pondered how a tiny fabric scrap could offer side-to-side concealment. It wasn't sufficient to decently hide his waist. Everything in the rear would be visible. Upright with hands clutching front and rear, he couldn't gesture to pedestrians. Cyrus became upset and wept, knowing the material simply wouldn't adequately cover him, and regardless head remain uncovered. Instinctively, he dashed to the entrance and instructed Yug to watch Asaph, stating he was stepping out briefly. Observing Cirrus bolt outside bare, Yug was astonished, questioning if that's how people ventured out as a Thoth. Felt disheartened knowing she'd have to remain until daybreak. Yug inquired as a Thoth if she desired toilet bowl cleaner, because it was palatable, but as a Thoth firmly refused. Outside the chamber, Cirrus veiled his face with fabric, believing it was the optimal choice to conceal his identity. He then dashed towards the cookout area, anticipating a large crowd there, and to worsen Cirrus' predicament. Upon arriving at the barbecue square, the beast Ghana also detected his proximity and appeared. She was infuriated by Sirius' swift escape. Sirius, upon reaching the spot, began flailing his arms to grab everyone's notice. A young lady spotted him first and yelled about a deviant, pleading for assistance. More individuals emerged after the outcry, but Cyrus gradually fulfilled his objective amid the chaos. Having finished 1/3 of his assignment, with a mere 7.5 seconds remaining, Cyrus found himself pursued by several males due to his unclothed state in the town, and moving toward a busier locale. The setting changed to Cyrus' residence, where Sadie L materialized at the window. Yug became anxious noticing someone at the window. Sadiel felt relief spotting Asura, and then cautioned them about being in the City of Valor. The Guild of Heroes, so capture would mean grave peril. Sadiel implored them to depart quickly. Asura replied that with daybreak approaching, concealment was unnecessary. She then directed Sadiel to locate Cyrus. Asura commanded Sadiel at sunrise to spill her blood on the earth, and she would find him. Sadiel agreed and raced off to search for Cyrus. While running, she pondered Cyrus' fate. After the essence reclamation, if humanity would transform into blood, this notion made her uneasy. Abruptly, she heard shouts from the crowd, and, gazing down from above, she was stunned to see Cyrus sprinting naked, with individuals pursuing him. On the street, Cyrus kept waving to others, astounding his pursuers, that he was still acknowledging people. While being chased, his display indicated he had finished 2/3 of his task, making him joyful as few people remained. To greet, unexpectedly, a gigantic arachnid emerged and assaulted Sirius' chasers. Sirius heard noises of devastation and looked back to observe. He was amazed to witness the spectacle. Other folks, seeing the creature, encouraged everyone to vacate the location and summon aid. Meanwhile, Cirrus was bewildered about how a beast could materialize at such a crucial juncture. Despite his perplexity, he chose to engage and battle the beast. Sirius requested the system to activate. It notified him that during the weapon retrieval operation, he couldn't utilize the program, as everything returned to the base level F. Upon discovering this, Cyrus was stunned and pondered what's happening in the metropolis. A declaration was issued that a creature was sighted, leading everyone to clear out. Concurrently, it was revealed that a youngster named Sam had apprehended a spiky spider by grasping its limb and was requesting someone provide him a tool. To his astonishment, Cirrus came near and clasped hands with Sam. Commending him, Sam angrily inquired if Cirrus was insane for welcoming during the skirmish, and if the beast had ripped his trousers. Because of Cirrus' mishap, Sam released his hold, and the spiky spider was poised to strike him. Fortunately, a champion of a tier named Kajak appeared and rapidly vanquished the spiky beast. Rescuing Sam, KJK questioned Sam if it was truly challenging for ocean tier heroes to vanquish such tiny arachnids. Beside Kajak stood Charlton, the second in command of the Hero Association. Also in attendance, Charlton commended KJK, recognizing his deeds as frontline service. He then stressed the urgency of Jack's safe return. However, Jack assured Charlton there was no need for concern, claiming their protection detail prevented any creature from approaching or harming him. Ghana appeared unexpectedly, detecting Cyrus' presence upon seeing her. Everyone grew apprehensive, and Kajak instantly directed everyone to safeguard Mr. Charlton's well-being. Kajak tried to strike Ghana with his blade, but she evaded the blow swiftly, and then she brushed her face against his hand, inquiring if that was his sole desire, to be near her abruptly. Kajak's hand began dissolving, and his whole body commenced a slow burn. Kajak cried out in agony, recognizing the toxin's impact, and cautioned everyone to keep their distance from Ghana. Ghana chuckled at the frailty of humans, for their inability to endure even a trace of toxin. Another champion directed the others to escort Mr. Charlton to safety, while he would detain Ghana. Ghana grinned and inquired if he desired to restrain her, adding that they had misjudged her capabilities. Elsewhere, Cyrus was a single individual away from accomplishing his objective, when another hero was scorched by Ghana. Afflicting him with poison, she commented on the sounds humans emitted when poisoned were quite delightful to her. As the hero perished and his cries ceased, Ghana stated that she hadn't had her fill of screams. She gradually advanced toward Charlton, who commenced yelling for aid. Cyrus appeared and commanded Ghana to release Charlton. He implored Charlton to gaze at him, and as Charlton complied, Cyrus' task was fulfilled and his attire materialized on him. Ceres then prompted the system to initiate. It offered him a card selection. After picking a card, the system displayed Ceres' new acquisition, a weapon, known as the Silent Divine Finger. The weapon possesses a unique attribute. When Cyrus contacts nearby items, they morph into the foe's form, and he experiences their feelings. When the adversary cries out in agony, it activates the weapon's silent power, connected to the armament. This capability implies a potent and possibly transformative nature of the armament in battles or tactical scenarios. Observing Cyrus, Ghana was delighted, recognizing him as the human linked to her master Asathoth. She raced towards him, inquiring about Asathoth's whereabouts. Cyrus answered he would deliver Asathoth to her. Ghana stated if that were true, she would dispose of Cyrus, then seek Asathoth herself. Cyrus zeroed in on Ghana, and when Ghana engaged him, he evaded and retreated, brushing the floor. The instant Cyrus grazed the ground, Ghana experienced an odd feeling, like someone was caressing her form. This feeling mortified her, making her question the sensation. She shrieked from the contact, and her scream level hit 12%, activating the unspoken power. The power inflicted intense agony on Ghana, briefly incapacitating her. She shielded her chest and pondered if Cyrus had actually grazed her chest moments prior. She understood the abrupt blow after her cry as an unseen energy, probably Cyrus' skill. While not lethal, it pained her, validating her hunch about Cyrus' talent. Ghana proclaimed her body and soul were solely Lord Asathoth's. She asserted that anyone else who made contact with her, moreover Master Asathoth, would perish, and she swore to never again utter such a treacherous noise. Ghana purged all her poisons and amassed them in her palm. She then told Cyrus she would offer his burned remains as restitution to Master Asathoth. Cyrus grew anxious as Ghana initiated her assault, proclaiming Cyrus would die agonizingly for contacting her form. Although Cyrus evaded the first strike, Ghana continued to pursue him relentlessly, trying to seize him from the earth. At that instant, Ceres touched the ground and grazed it. Ghana shrieked again from the extreme feeling in her underarm, and this time her yell measured 43%. Consequently, she was hit by a mighty power, inflicting her with considerable suffering. Ceres also pondered if the feeling was akin to having just grazed her underarm. In the meantime, Ghana was suffering and acknowledged the sensation truly hurt, observing it was many times more potent than the last. She pondered how she vocalized again when she had opted to refrain, but this instance her underarm was grazed. It felt ticklish and briefly brought her delight, recognizing that even Cyrus could evoke such feelings. Similar to Lord Asathoth, Ghana clutched the bell Asathoth had gifted her, and regretfully apologized, questioning what was occurring. She inquired about Cyrus, a mere mortal daring to harbor thoughts like Azazoth. She deemed it repulsive, because lowly humans could never rival Azazoth's nobility. Ghana struck herself to regain composure, and once collected, she grinned and inquired if Azazoth would now pardon her. Across, Cyrus was startled to see Ghana hitting herself, and construed it as a sign of mental instability. Ghana commented to Cyrus his attack maneuvers were peculiar, and she proclaimed she would now become earnest. She drew her blade and readied herself to strike. Observing Ghana unsheath her weapon, Cyrus pondered the hiding spot of her armament. Was even stranger, he assessed the circumstances, recalling initially it was her bosom. The second instance, her underarm near the barrier. Logically calculating by proximity, her next action would probably target his rear. For some unknown reason, Cyrus began fleeing, causing Ghana to pursue him, yelling why he was escaping now. When it was too late, she lunged at Cyrus to strike, but he evaded the blow. Cyrus exclaimed his reflexes were superior to hers, and he would not allow her to surprise him. Ghana replied, acknowledging her awareness, then launched a spider silk at Cyrus. He became entangled in the webbing and fought to get loose. By struggling, Ghana declared he couldn't escape, and now his demise was at hand. She advanced for the kill. But then Cyrus wrestled his hand free from the webbing and made contact with the earth. He pondered his accuracy, observing the feeling resembled brushing against her inner thigh. Ghana felt a renewed curiosity and tension from Cyrus' peculiar ability. This time she covered her mouth with her hand. Resolved to stay silent, Cyrus tried to tickle her further, but she stayed firm in her silence. No matter what, she prevailed with the scream level at a mere 1%. Showing the power was minimal, Ghana was calmed and pleased with her restraint, knowing that as long as she didn't yell, she wouldn't be susceptible to more assaults. When Ghana glanced at Cyrus, she was astonished to find he had broken free from the webbing and vanished, much to her amazement. Cyrus replied from behind her that he hadn't mentioned escaping. Ghana grinned, deeming Cyrus' choice to stay a boneheaded move. She then put something in her mouth, while stating Shed deciphered all his combat techniques, and the opportunity he had to flee was his sole chance. Now she was set on conquering him solo. When she took her hand from her mouth, it was clear Shed coated her mouth with spider silk. Her plan was, by shutting her mouth with webbing, Shed prevent any screams, making Cyrus' assaults ineffective against her. Cyrus inquired Ghana if the spot she sensed was inside her thigh correct. Hearing this, she grew flustered and ashamed, believing Cyrus a vile man. Ogling her figure, Cyrus deduced from her quiet and clarified after confining her. He positioned everything based on her physique. He declared the fight was next, where one party totally dominates the other, and he would unleash a brutal assault on her form to locate the vulnerable areas or places that would drive her mad. Ghana then believed her actions were foreseen, so regardless of where she was touched, she wouldn't cry out. Cyrus glided his hands along the surfaces. Ghana expected it, so she somehow withstood it and remained silent. Cyrus was also astonished to observe no response whatsoever. Meanwhile, Ghana was stressed, recognizing the sensation was entirely different and appeared to originate from his core. But somehow she refrained. She still spoke of Lord Asaph, as if the emotion was genuine. But she tolerated it and didn't forsake Asaph. This degree of delight couldn't compare to Asaph. Cyrus once again ran his hands along the surfaces and then together, urging Ghana to relish it. Ghana was becoming tempted and pondered why the sensation instantly flooded her thoughts. Meanwhile, Charlton was observing everything and witnessed the she-monster begin to squirm once more, which was remarkable. Charlton contemplated what sort of ruse it was that caused the she-monster to produce those groaning noises, and he also desired to acquire that skill. Conversely, Ghana questioned how Cyrus achieved it, as the sensation originated deep within her soul, and it's so powerful, unlike anything Shed ever experienced. Abruptly, she realized that Lord Azathoth's image was becoming hazy. She resolved to prevent it, as she had to halt everything. Such notions couldn't exist, for she was devoted to Lord Azathoth, and she needed to regain her composure. Circe was also astonished to observe that Ghana still hadn't uttered any cries. Apparently the arousal wasn't sufficient, yet Ghana then channeled all the venom from her being into her blade and lunged at Cyrus to strike, believing he wouldn't succumb easily. Observing her advance, Cyrus neared the wall and clasped his hands, beckoning Ghana to witness his prowess. This made Ghana shudder again and writhe on the floor. As she withstood it, she tightened, engulfed by the potent feeling, frozen in place. So she decided she must swiftly vanquish Cyrus, or Lord Azathoth would fade from her soul. With resolve, she hurled her sword at Cyrus to fell him. But Cyrus somehow evaded the blow. Ghana foresaw Cyrus evading, so she unleashed the venom from her blade as it neared Cyrus. She reasoned, Cyrus couldn't escape the poison in such a confined area, and as the venom dissipated from the vicinity, Ghana understood at such proximity, Cyrus wouldn't have an opportunity to flee. Now his whole form was likely contaminated with her venom. He would certainly perish. Abruptly, to her astonishment, she heard Cyrus' voice stating, like the spiderweb ruse she employed on him before, trick and attack, he wouldn't be fooled twice. Looking upward, Ghana was awestruck to observe even then Cyrus had leaped onto the roof. Cyrus then yelled, "Now it's his chance." And he plunged from the roof into the confined area, scraping his hands on the walls top to bottom. As Cyrus descended, Ghana experienced a more potent feeling. Growing with each moment, Ghana attempted to endure, as the feeling should conclude shortly. But because of the wall's height, the feeling lingered longer than anticipated. She grew anxious, realizing it hadn't finished. She recalled everything happening instantly last time. So, why wasn't it concluding now? She desired its swift end, but her endurance was waning. And finally, before yelling, she expressed remorse to Lord Azathoth, unable to persevere. She shrieked with utmost force, and Cyrus' system displayed a scream level of 100. This instance, even Azathoth's gifted locket shattered, triggering a massive explosion around Ghana. The blast gradually drained Ghana's magical power, until her magic reached null. She morphed into a tiny spider. Cyrus' system returned the armament, signaling the foe's defeat. Thus it was reclaimed. Cyrus approached Ghana, lifting her. His system showed Ghana's affection for him at 100. Cyrus' system announced a passive victory achieved, and upon conquering the leader, had acquired the leader's unique ability. So the power Cyrus gained was venomous. Amalgamation, letting him apply strong toxins to arms. Cyrus pondered if he could also affix venoms from inside his own form. Onto armaments, the locale changed to Sadiel, where she employed her lifeblood to beckon Azathoth. As her crimson fluid fell upon the earth, Azathoth vanished from the chamber, astounding the youngster as he observed it. When summoned, Azathoth materialized in his mortal guise. Henceforth in the tale, we'll call him a gentleman. Azathoth inquired about Cyrus' whereabouts to Sadiel. Nervously, Sadie answered with regrets, confessing she had misplaced Cyrus. Hearing this, Azathoth was dumbfounded. He revealed the human shell he occupied was initially her core, and should he fail to reclaim it, he'd revert to a feeble mortal after dark. Regardless of this discovery, Sadiel affirmed she had lost sight of Cyrus. Aspalth abruptly heard faint noises from the town, and felt it was the system's energy. He instantly flew toward that location. Sadiel observed nervously as he left. The scene shifts back to Cyrus, where his system displayed he unlocked a new ability called placement, permitting him to transport defeated monsters to their origin. As Cyrus said placement, Ghana vanished from his hand and was transported to Yug's quarters. Yug was puzzled when something struck her head, and after noticing it was a spider, she responded with astonishment. On Cyrus' side, Azathoth unexpectedly seized him, and before Cyrus could respond, Azathoth restrained him by securing his head. Azathoth then gazed at Cyrus, conveying dissatisfaction that Cyrus had vowed to rescue him, but escaped halfway, which infuriated him greatly. Observing Azathoth in human guise, Cyrus grew convinced Azathoth was truly a man, and the being who had tricked him regarding the hex. Azathoth confirmed. Cyrus inquired about Azathoth's current desires. Azathoth requested Cyrus honor his outstanding pledge. Cyrus stated his lack of interest in men. Azathoth shifted his form and questioned Cyrus. What about now? Cyrus nervously glanced back and was startled to find Azathoth transformed into a figure, resembling a girl in a feline attire. Azathoth even meowed, asking if Cyrus was now intrigued. Cyrus adamantly refused and proclaimed regardless of Azathoth's shape, he remained uninterested due to his dislike of men. Cyrus tried to strike Azathoth, but Asathoth intercepted it, gripping his fist and twisting it. Inflicting significant pain, Asathoth persisted, remarking on humans' frequent interest in things like cat ears and dark hosiery, proposing they enjoy themselves together. Yet despite his attempts, he was refused, leaving him heartbroken. He implied he might need to resort to extreme actions. Asathoth tasted Cirrus' finger, which shocked him stiff. Cirrus inquired if Asathoth was earnest, ordering him to stop licking. Asathoth relished the flavor of Cirrus' finger. Cirrus attempted to flee, but Asathoth halted him with his abilities, declaring Cirrus couldn't escape no matter his efforts. Asathoth then soared into the sky, stating he had transcended the system limits long ago, so if Cirrus desired to run, Asathoth urged him to do so freely, because ultimately it would result in the same conclusion. Asathoth then questioned if Cirrus would try to confine him and enhance his own velocity. Cirrus replied he didn't want to use the system against people, as that would violate his moral code as a person. Moments later, Asathoth hoisted Cirrus aloft and vaulted over him, declaring Cirrus' blood his remedy, insinuating Cirrus had always yearned for him. Azazoth proposed if Cirrus complied and obeyed, he'd heal him. Enraged, Cirrus retorted to Azazoth if acquiring the demon god's blood for the cure required intimacy, he'd rather decompose. He'd never engage in such conduct with a male. Azaph was infuriated by Cirrus' defiance. He readied an assault, declaring Cirrus disobedient and needing chastisement. He vowed to force himself on Cirrus, asserting Cirrus would plead for it. Azazoth grazed Cirrus' back, aiming to restore Cirrus' abilities, system, and heart to their rightful owner's form. Shockingly, his magic faltered and vanished. Perplexed, Asphalt questioned the event and his magic's failure. Cirrus' system showed no intention of going back, making Asphalt's attacks on Cirrus pointless. After this, Cirrus' system inquired if he would forfeit half his life for a shot at beating Azathoth. Cirrus angrily replied, asking if the system was really stupid, given the circumstances. The answer was obviously yes. The system clarified that targeting Azathoth would activate Asazoth's Spear of Oblivion. Then Asazoth would be completely consumed by Cyrus, and the toxin could be fully neutralized. Cyrus' life expectancy dropped to just 50 days. Meanwhile, Asazoth was shocked to find the system had declined to re-enter his body, which was astonishing to him. Cyrus also noticed that as long as Asazoth was visible, within 10 meters he could target him, before Cyrus could target. Asazoth utilized her abilities. Crimson mist shrouded Cyrus' surroundings. Cyrus was astonished by the sight, and questioned if the scarlet haze was Asazoth's work. The mist density was impenetrable. Cyrus couldn't see. Azathoth sliced his hand open. A matching gash materialized on Sadiel's hand. She grew anxious, wondering what occurred. Azathoth instantly transported to her. Azathoth arrived perspiring and stressed. He knew he barely escaped. He was secure. He was enraged the system refused his return. Feeling deceived observing Asaph like this, Sadiel was perplexed. She wondered what transpired. Asaph realized his position was system locked. Meanwhile, Cyrus was shocked the system pinpointed Asaph's location. He was also amazed Azathoth relocated. Immediately, Sadie nervously inquired of Azathoth if his perspiration was due to injury. Azathoth replied that no one in the city could wound him, and because she had consumed his blood, their forms were harmonizing. He clarified that any harm to him would be transferred to her. Upon hearing this, Sadie became apprehensive, but she initially questioned about Ceres, asking if Azathoth had dealt with him. Azathoth answered negatively, stating that all his assaults were now futile against Ceres. Sadie's reaction was different, and she questioned Azathoth's honesty. Azathoth, in return, inquired about her feelings on Ceres' survival. Sadie replied in the negative, voicing her disdain for Ceres, and proposed that if Azathoth couldn't injure Ceres, they should head back to the labyrinth. Asazoth replied excitedly, saying no, as he had been with the program for millennia and understood it completely. He admitted his assaults were ineffective against Ceres, but he observed that enjoyment wasn't classified as an attack. Thus, he thought he could still provide Ceres with pleasure, until it resulted in his downfall. Asazoth clarified that the program struggled to choose a host with a fitting, harmonious body, so once Ceres perished, the program could only pick him. He mentioned that once he reverted to a human, The program couldn't pinpoint his whereabouts. Azathoth then directed Sadiel to go and locate Ceres once more. At nightfall, Azathoth inquired Sadiel if she had mastered the shape-shifting magic yet. Sadiel answered affirmatively. So Azathoth requested she test it on him. As Sadiel was casting her transfiguration magic on him, he'd lose all his powers at night. He needed her help to stay transformed. After changing, Asazoth became female again. Asazoth was pleased it wasn't a problem, and the change meant Ceres wouldn't know him. He told her humans love acting heroic. Rescuing damsels lets Ceres be the knight. Then he could act accordingly and get a chance to seduce Ceres. Sadiel asked Asazoth, perplexed, if he could truly eliminate Ceres pleasurably. Asazoth said yes, and asked how she thought he perished, implying a woman's delight also killed Asazoth. Whenever Asazoth recalled being forsaken by the system, he became enraged, yelling, why did the system reject him? He didn't get what was great about Ceres. Ceres pondered he had 50 days left. Finding Asazoth in that time frame meant a cure and survival. Every moment was crucial. He had to rush unexpectedly. His ticker went haywire, and Ceres found the toxins inside him flaring up. This instance it impacted his foot. As a searing feeling hit his pinky toe, he crumpled to the earth, screaming in agony, then blacked out. Witnessing this, Charlton dashed towards Ceres baffled. The scene cut to a bit later, when Ceres awoke in a medical facility. Even the orderly, spotting him conscious, beamed and hollered to his subordinate to notify Mr. Charlton. Ceres inquired who had transported him. The orderly replied it was Mr. Charlton, the guild's second in command. Upon learning this, Ceres was stunned. Just then Charlton walked in. Charlton then questioned if Cyrus recalled him rescuing him. The hefty man encircled by a giant spiky arachnid. Cyrus remembered the visage and affirmed. Then Cyrus inquired about his time unconscious. Charlton replied he was out for 13 hours. Hearing this, Ceres was astonished and questioned the duration, as it appeared his strength was depleted from prolonged combat. Mr. Charlton regretted his hastiness and blunder, hoping he hadn't bothered Cyrus. Observing Charlton's genuineness, Cyrus inquired if the VP required something. Charlton answered that he observed Ceres fight with the arachnid monster and admired his remarkable magical prowess. Ceres then inquired about the vice president's request. Charlton conveyed that with age, certain aptitudes diminish and interests wane. Nevertheless, he found Ceres' battle captivating and fascinating. He stated learning Ceres' skills would surely revitalize him and free him from a decade of torment. Ceres was still puzzled by the vice president's meaning, unsure of his true intentions. Charlton implored Ceres to share his magical knowledge and take him as a student. Ceres was astonished to learn the Adventurers Guild leader desired to be his apprentice. Ceres considered that as Charlton's mentor, their connection could utilize the Heroes Guild assets to find Azathoth, which would undoubtedly prove beneficial. However, he soon discovered it was a system capability, so he pondered how to impart this skill to Charlton. Ceres then inquired of Charlton if he understood the complexity of his magic. Charlton replied that regardless of difficulty, he must persevere, for, as the proverb states, the teacher provides guidance, but the dedication lies with the learner. He vowed to dedicate himself fully to its mastery, even if it meant sacrificing himself. Ceres informed Charlton about the sorcery he observed. Required practice originating from the fingers. Charlton abruptly prostrated before Ceres and sincerely requested tutelage. He also cautioned Ceres against divulging this information, considering his position as the guild's second in command. Ceres replied as his mentor. He comprehended unexpectedly at the entrance. Charlton's assistant Daisy arrived with an announcement. Charlton invited her inside. She presented him with a decree, declaring Ceres guilty of abandonment and condemned to execution. Ceres inquired, bewildered. Daisy clarified. The papers indicated that Cyrus defied the leader's commands and the Cyrus unit departed without authorization, resulting in the operation's collapse. Charlton addressed Cyrus. This situation is critical, but he'll attempt to manage it as Cyrus was his mentor. Ceres guaranteed Charlton he didn't flee, as he had remained to deal with the dungeon overseer Nay. Daisy answered that she had uncovered intel on the group's withdrawal and noted that he and F-Tier Bella A-C tier and Mark A-B tier had each conquered an S-tier beast. She deemed this accomplishment improbable for them. Sirius requested Daisy dispatch someone to verify his account. Daisy replied that the dungeon was presently vacant, as she had already deployed someone nevertheless. She continued that during the inquiry, had be confined to avert any possible flight risks. Charlton cut off Daisy and informed her confinement wasn't necessary, as he believed Cyrus' statement. Daisy countered that it violated protocol. Charlton then stated that in that scenario, he would assume the duty of overseeing Sirius. Amidst the inquiry, Daisy told Charlton he must go to the guild's celebratory dinner. That night, Charlton requested Sirius join him. Daisy again implored Charlton to rethink, stressing the gathering's significance. Charlton pondered, then informed Sirius it was settled. He wouldn't bother him for the remainder of the day, and would return later that evening to fetch him for the feast. Sirius replied, all right. When they departed, Sirius was eased. Then Sirius considered finding Azathoth's whereabouts. Prepared, he intended to seek out Azathoth. When Cyrus accessed the system display, he was astonished Asaph hadn't exited the town. Examining further, he was amazed Asaph was quite near. When Cyrus truly contemplated, he was startled Asaph was right at his residence. He anxiously raced back to his home, and upon entering, he discovered the place empty. As he ventured deeper inside, he found Ghana still present, but Jug was missing. So Sirius deduced that Jug had been abducted by Asazoth. The scene changed to Asathoth and Yug, where Yug was bewildered and nervously inquired her location. Asathoth grinned and replied they were at the sale location for creatures and people. Cyrus was sprinting towards Asathoth's signal, and he realized 30 minutes had passed. Since it hadn't budged, meaning he was very near. Suddenly Asaph's marker vanished, and Cyrus knew he couldn't follow Asaph after dark. As Cyrus continued, he was ambushed, but he easily evaded the blow and questioned his new assailant. The individual's name was Raka, and he declared it was Star Cavalry territory. He cautioned Cyrus that trespassers, saint or villain, would face severe punishment. At the mention of Star Cavalry, Cyrus pondered if they were the infamous outlaws. Known for abduction, they readied themselves for combat. Cyrus alongside Ratcha, remarking that the monstrous females and captive women were probably baits, unleashed as decoys. He also cautioned about potential heroes nearby. They resolved to seize Sirius for questioning. Cyrus wondered if the monstrous women referred to Yug. He saw a prime chance to inquire about a lecherous male monster in the vicinity. Abruptly, his interface displayed a notification. The weapon retrieval task commencing in 2 minutes. Cyrus grew anxious entering the weapon retrieval task menu, his attributes reverting to their base F rank. Thus, he opted for a swift resolution within the 2-minute time frame. The perspective changed to a youthful girl, struggling to release herself from restraints. Unable to counteract a binding enchantment, she revealed that lacking male sustenance, her physique grew feeble. She contemplated returning to her master's abode. Asaph inquired if Yug is a creature, resisted going back to confinement. Yug replied as a lingling reptile. She inherently depended on masculine vitality. She selected a potent man favoring human lairs over monster dens. Adding the beverage's flavor was exceptional, unexpectedly shocking both Yug and Azathoth. An explosion erupted in the barrier a boy was propelled. Inside the chamber, Sirius entered. Reassured, everything concluded swiftly. Sirius stated if they'd provided the key earlier, they'd have avoided a thrashing. His interface displayed the weapon retrieval task, requiring him to spank someone's rear 10 times. Once a noise was made, a 1-hour timer began. Learning of the task, Cyrus nervously went to the individual he had defeated and inquired if a yell was still possible. Unfortunately, time had run out. The lad had lost consciousness. Cyrus recognized he used excessive force. Asaph pleaded with Cyrus for rescue, but Cyrus wavered, seeing their remote location, where creatures could emerge anytime. Lacking the system's aid, peril was high. Prioritizing the mission became his focus. He freed Young's restraints and smacked her backside, eliciting a sensual cry. She questioned his actions. Cyrus explained that to guarantee safe passage, a bottom pat was necessary. So no resistance, please. Asaph grinned internally, thinking Cyrus was clearly no saint. Handling this type of individual, he just needed to charm him a little. Sirius would be smitten. Asaf couldn't fathom Sirius using such a ridiculous pretext just to exploit her. Asaf, now a female before Sirius requests her release. She guarantees him if he rescues her. She won't object to a spanking, and she's even prepared to offer herself. So Cyrus consented, but as he undid the restraints, Asaf leaped at him and embraced him weeping. She recounted her forceful abduction. She was terrified by threats of being sold to goblins. Asaf also informed Cyrus having rescued her. She would be entirely his upon uttering those words. Cyrus swatted Asaf's backside, but she didn't cry out. Observing this, Cyrus anxiously questioned her silence. Asaf nears Cyrus oddly, requesting a repeat. Cyrus nervously contemplates refusing her plea. Yet before he could answer, his display indicated Asathoth made no noise, had been immobile for 5 minutes. When Cyrus collapsed frozen solid, Yug crept toward him, cradling his head, conveying her intense discomfort, desperately needing his life force and blood, lest she perish. But Cyrus was completely frozen. His eyes were shutting. Somehow he opened his eyes and witnessed Yug kissing his neck. Enraged, Asathoth yelled at Yug, labeling her a brazen sorceress for acting while she was unaware. Azazoth attempted to strike Yug, but couldn't. Yug ensnared Azazoth with her tail. Yug declared Cyrus was her lord, not Azazoth. Moreover, she arrived first. Azazoth became infuriated, powerless, and contemplated if daylight would help. He could have effortlessly moved Yug. Azazoth dismissed the issue. Recovery of the system was paramount. Instead of a dispute with Jug's Thoth, proposed a 3-person affair neared Cyrus. Cyrus pondered if Thoth was genuinely unwilling, wondering about her urge to interact with him. Sadie, perched atop the room, watched and contemplated if Aseth truly wanted this exchange with Sirius, experiencing sensations as if shared with her. Aseth stated, "It had been ages since she last played like that more." Asazoth went on. Sadiel felt the same powerful emotions and grew more enchanted. Here Asazoth requested Cyrus to gradually curve his hand and exert a little force, leading Sadiel to feel even stronger sensations. She sensed her body becoming desensitized and developing chills everywhere. Asadoth then moved towards Cyrus' core, making Cyrus tighten up and pray she wouldn't contact that spot. In the meantime, Sadie started to sense like she was grasping something. Abruptly sensing the hold, Cyrus identified it as recognizable, and upon closer examination, discerned it was Sadie. Observing Sirius enraged, Asphalt questioned why the expression in Sirius' eyes shifted. Asphalt understood it was the method he employed unintentionally, meaning he had been completely revealed. Asphalt summoned Sadiel. With Sadiel's appearance, Yug detects peril and shrinks, sprinting to Sirius seeking safety. Asathoth urges Sadiel for a swift escape because he's been uncovered. Sadiel consents and readies himself. Cyrus was astonished that Asathoth had become a female to approach him, and he felt fortunate to have deduced it. However, lacking access to the system's functions, pursuing Asathoth was impossible. When Cyrus thawed, Asaph was long gone. Cyrus chose to prioritize his task, intending to hunt Asaph after regaining system access. Later on, particularly after dark, he vowed to be wary of any woman getting near him. The scene changed to a security checkpoint where Daisy, Cyrus, and his squad awaited his arrival. Seeing them, Cyrus was perplexed by their presence. Cyrus approached Cyrus, displaying the warrant. It declared his arrest for desertion. He was required to accompany them. To Cyrus' astonishment, Daisy intervened. She clarified she was VP Charlton's assistant. She revealed they'd inspected the new labyrinth, finding it vacant, refuting the allegation against Cyrus. She added the annulment process had commenced. They couldn't apprehend Cyrus at this time. She stated Cyrus was expected at the guild's celebratory dinner later. Meanwhile, Cyrus tallied his companions present. Abruptly, Cyrus struck Daisy fiercely, exclaiming she was blatantly deceiving them because solely commanders of a certain level and higher could participate in the celebratory dinner. He denounced her as a fraud impersonating the vice presidents. Aide Cyrus proclaimed he was the president himself and told her to leave immediately. Cyrus then menaced Daisy, saying if she persisted in making trouble, he'd confine her to the interrogation room with Cyrus. Cyrus instructed Daisy to seek the vice president's approval and to retrieve the cancellation document. to liberate him, as he was certain Charlton would assist. Sirius also inquired if she could manage it in 20 minutes. Daisy replied that 10 minutes would suffice. Cyrus commended her for that, and declared he'd make them atone by severely disciplining them. The scene transitioned to the questioning chamber, where everyone gathered around Cyrus. Cyrus questioned Cyrus if he recalled how his right hand was wounded. Cyrus stayed mum, offering no reply. Cyrus restated that he had valiantly guided his squad into combat against the creature Nay. However, Cyrus had ambushed him from behind to flee, which provided Nay a chance to strike, leading to the demise of most of his teammates. Cyrus conveyed he forfeited his hand to rescue the surviving crew. Cyrus angrily questioned Cyrus if a weakling like him warranted life or death. Cyrus answered that a scared individual fleeing combat merited death like a beast. Hearing this, Cyrus enraged, because he grasped Cyrus was suggesting his cowardice. Cyrus requested his partner fetch the hammer. At that point, Cyrus pondered 10 minutes elapsed, meaning the assistant would appear shortly. Yet the obstacle was his lacking system entry, so he must tolerate the predicament temporarily. Abruptly, shockingly, Yug called Cyrus bewildered. Cyrus inquired her meaning. Yug clarified Cyrus couldn't injure him, since she consumed some blood essence, which revived some magical strength. This was ample to withstand human torment. She also strikes a bargain that upon their return, hello her double. Abruptly, Cyrus slams the hammer on the table near Cyrus' hand, making Cyrus uneasy. Cyrus asks Cyrus to select a finger to begin with, or if he prefers, Cyrus will pick one for him. Just as Cyrus is poised to strike, a teammate intervenes, stating it's an inopportune moment, because the vice president's assistant has arrived with the cancellation document. Upon seeing the notice, Cyrus, everyone grew anxious and doubtful that the girl was actually the vice president's aide. Even Cyrus was astonished and questioned how a low-ranking hero could have connections with someone of the vice president's stature. So one of the guys inquired if they should free Cyrus, as inflicting harm after a revocation order was unlawful. Everyone readied to untie Cyrus, but Cyrus commanded them to halt and requested they return the document to him. After 30 minutes, with no countermand received, Cyrus feigned ignorance. Cyrus was enraged by Cyrus's behavior, while Cyrus, with a resolute face, exclaimed Cyrus would face consequences. Beyond the questioning chamber, Cyrus's squad reported their leader remained inside, and they lacked entry clearance. Daisy told them to move. She would enter alone and present the annulment order. He addressed Daisy once more, explaining it was the Inquisition chamber, and she couldn't enter and exit freely. Inside, Cyrus struck Cyrus's hands with the mallet. Shockingly, Cyrus remained unharmed by the impacts. So Cyrus pondered the outcome: no fractures, no bleeding, no abrasions on Cyrus's flesh. Outside, Daisy was disputing with the sentinel. Unexpectedly, from thin air, Charlton appeared and inquired if the guard had entry permission. Observing this, the guard grew anxious and retreated from the entrance. Charlton forced the door open, and upon entering, he witnessed Cyrus about to strike Cyrus with a hammer. Cyrus was astonished and nervously questioned the vice president's presence. Charlton displayed the document and clarified it was the cancellation order for Cyrus' apprehension warrant, mandating Cyrus' immediate release. Cyrus anxiously dropped the hammer and consented to free Cyrus. Then they liberated Cyrus, and Charlton elaborated that as a captain, Cyrus had misused his authority by tormenting a subordinate. Charlton cautioned that if the issue was probed, Cyrus would likely lose his captaincy. At the very least, Cyrus, feeling afraid, replied he hadn't gotten the annulment notice, which explained his actions. Cyrus added that his colleagues could vouch for him, yet shockingly no one attempted it. To avoid disrespecting the second in command, Charlton angrily demanded Cyrus' explanation, leaving Cyrus silent, pondering his next move. His only option was seeking his brother's assistance. Cyrus rose, declaring he could provide testimony that Cyrus hadn't received the cancellation notice, and he would drop the issue of his arrest. Cyrus then insisted that Cyrus and the rest should offer apologies to the administrative assistant. Perplexed, the administrative assistant questioned Sirius' actions. Moments later, the scene changed. The entire Crusade squad was kneeling before Daisy. Sirius held a stick. Everyone expressed remorse to Daisy. Sirius angrily exclaimed they mistreated a lovely administrative assistant. He then spanked everyone with the stick, as everyone shrieked in agony. Daisy, observing this, was flushed and grinning, thinking of Cyrus. They all proclaimed their wrongdoing and vowed to never repeat it. Cyrus' task was finished. Thus, he notified Cyrus that the conflict between Cyrus and Daisy was settled. Upon hearing this, Cyrus anxiously inquired what Cyrus implied. Cyrus forcefully seized Cyrus' hand and insisted they resolve their issue immediately. Cyrus nervously questioned Cyrus if he wasn't implying he would drop the apprehension matter. Cyrus retorted angrily that it concerned Cyrus striking his hand with a hammer, and as he spoke, he strengthened his hold on Cyrus. Because of this, Cyrus began wailing in pain and was pleading for forgiveness from Cyrus, promising not to repeat the offense. Cyrus replied with an affirmative and fractured Cyrus' hand by striking it against his knee. Cyrus' left hand fractured in the center. His comrades grew frightened and anxiously inquired about his well-being. Cyrus stated he was now pardoning Cyrus. Charlton told Cyrus Daisy would escort him to the feast, as Charlton had to convene with a diplomat from the Sacred Sea. Cyrus, bewildered, asked about the Sacred Sea. Charlton clarified they founded the church with an objective: to purge all wicked notions from the earth. They wield supreme cleansing enchantments, able to eradicate any poisons from the physique. The setting changed to a celebratory dining area, where the holy woman named Mia of the Sacred Sea was entering the gathering with Charlton. Noticing Mia, two lads gossiped about her revealing attire. They questioned the propriety of a saintess, garbed so immodestly. Mia paused and gazed at them. They froze, realizing Mia overheard them. Mia stated their belief was to abolish all wicked notions globally. She clarified to eradicate impure thoughts. One must completely comprehend them. That's why individuals in their holy see garb themselves so. She requested the boys not to gaze at her with tainted eyes. Upon this, Charlton, enraged, commanded the guard to strike them 10 times. Hearing this, they instantly began begging forgiveness. Mia interjected, telling Charlton there was no necessity for that. She reasoned if they disciplined those 2 men, then everybody present would require punishment, excluding the leader. Charlton, bewildered, inquired how he differed from the rest. Mia replied to Charlton, stating while his thoughts were chaotic, his physique didn't exhibit much response, contrary to the others, who responded intensely and experienced a surge of dark thoughts. Hearing this, Charlton felt humiliated and retorted he possessed a pristine heart. He possessed some restraint. The crowd began whispering and gossiping about rumors of the vice president's impotence. The location changed to outside the building, where Daisy and Cyrus appeared. Daisy stated this was their intended destination. They should enter. As they walked in, Cyrus inquired about the potency of the Holy Sea's purification magic. Daisy confirmed its power, calling it their signature magic. She described its ability to heal anything from missing limbs to diseases to severe toxins. They could mend everything. She added that heroism was a perilous occupation, and every region's hero guild desired to join them, but they had all been denied. She revealed they rarely used their magic, even when assistance was needed, due to people's wicked intentions. Sirius pondered if they could remedy his affliction, so he resolved to locate them. Upon entering the chamber, Siri observed a multitude assembled. He inquired with Daisy about it. Daisy admitted ignorance of the situation. Charlton appeared and clarified that the saintess was evaluating their suitability for a partnership with the Sacred Ocean. He added that success would enable a joint effort and substantially empower their hero guild from Zone Z. The focus shifted to Mia, who gestured towards an object and identified it as their Sacred Ocean's relic, the hallowed wicked heart once inside it. The jewels would display the extent of malevolent thoughts within. The prospect of a union with their Sacred Ocean hinged on the individual's purity of heart, and no one from the Heroes Guild in other territories had succeeded. So everyone began wondering what lay within and how they would assess it. Mia replied that if they desired to know, they should enter and attempt it. Suddenly, a young man named Logan, the leader of Team 7, volunteered and announced he would try, because he possessed a pure heart and had never committed any wrongdoing. As he proceeded toward the trial, Mia grinned upon stepping inside. Logan was astonished to encounter a feline woman, which was his vulnerability. He felt awkward observing her impressive features. Unexpectedly, she drew very near to him. He became tense and questioned when she decided to approach him so closely. She simply uttered meow and he was captivated, remarking that she was quite striking and he desired to caress her. The feline woman inquired what he wished to play. Logan replied he desired to engage with her striking attributes. She urged him to cease as it was repulsive, and ejected Logan from the tent. Outside, he was yelling in agony from a jaw injury. The jewel displayed 88 wickedness. Mia was astonished by this, deducing Logan was clearly a man with tainted thoughts. Others grew apprehensive, observing the high wickedness level, suggesting a lurking danger within the tent. Another lad named Owen, leader of Team 6, advanced and proclaimed he would investigate, certain he could manage any threat inside. Yet he too was swiftly expelled, and the jewel revealed Owen had 92 wickedness. Likewise, numerous individuals volunteered claiming competence, but everyone's wickedness exceeded 80. Mia felt it was futile, since no one possessed a level below 80. They were all morally corrupt within. She thought nobody could succeed. In that instant, Siri volunteered, declaring it was his moment. Mia felt at ease knowing he was the final candidate. Entering Ceres was bewildered to discover a feline woman present. The cat woman neared Ceres, inquiring about his intentions. Shockingly, Ceres touched her face, pushing her away, declaring his dislike for unwanted female advances. Boldly, in fact. Inwardly, Ceres felt he must remain vigilant. A Thoth impostor was highly probable. Even the feline woman was astonished, remarking he was the first to refuse her so directly. Outside, Mia was amazed by the 0% gemstone reading. Such immaculate purity was unprecedented. The individual appeared serene. Inside, Cyrus remained wary, uncertain about the true persona. He requested the system commence. To validate Cyrus' system, inquired if he wished to target the foe and utilize as Oth's weapon of destruction. Cyrus felt stressed, knowing he possessed a single opportunity. If he faltered and encountered as a Thoth once more, he would be condemned conversely. The feline woman was perplexed. It was her initial rejection from a male, and he had even repelled her. She observed him gazing intensely at her, yet no hint of wicked intentions existed, and he appeared somewhat antagonistic toward her. The feline woman began gnawing her digit, irritated that Cirrus' rebuff was more bothersome than those who merely draped her physique, perceiving it as a dismissal of her allure. Resolute, she resolved to accelerate Sirius' heartbeat. Meanwhile, Sirius contemplated. He must locate a chance to examine if she harbored any harmful attributes. Abruptly, she lunged toward Sirius, jiggling her bosom to entice him, and told him not to glare at her, proposing a warm, gentle embrace could bridge the gap. But as she drew near to cuddle him, Cirrus evaded her and retreated. Seeing this, the feline woman grew annoyed at being spurned again. Unfazed, she dashed towards him again for a hug, but this time he sidestepped as she leaped, desiring Cirrus to feel her tenderness. He dodged her again. Cirrus deemed the perspective suitable to inspect if anything lay beneath her garments. He shifted in the reverse course of the Catwoman to gain a clearer glimpse as he neared. His gaze landed on her ample bosom, making him flush instinctively. Yet he persisted in seeking concealed attributes first. The feline lady observed that despite Cyrus evading her, he kept gazing fixedly at her bust. After dodging her, he ceased moving, and she too stayed put, contemplating Cyrus' lack of impure ideas. Cyrus also felt uneasy, unable to avert his gaze from the feline woman's impressive bosom. She inquired why he stared at her chest like all the others, and why his physique responded, but his heart held no hint of wicked notions. She yelled again, demanding his composure reason. Sirius calmly replied, it's due to his righteous character. He possessed no indecent thoughts regarding her form. He stated breasts were commonplace in their realm, providing sustenance, nourishment for development and life. Ceres gazed at her chest with thankfulness. Hearing his words, she brightened and flushed. She sensed a potent, radiant glow emitting from Cirrus, and deemed him inherently that type of individual. Finally, she envisioned herself diminutive before him, recognizing a considerable chasm between them. The feline woman declared Sirius' past could depart. Upon hearing this news, Sirius questioned her sincerity in releasing him, and supposing she wasn't really Azathoth, He cheerfully wished her farewell and departed as Sirius exited. The feline lady pondered if her preparation was inadequate, which explained her failure to entice him. Meantime, in the corridor, everybody was debating how Sirius could attain zero wicked notions, as they figured a dude couldn't possibly lack attraction to a cat. Galmia remarked it was her initial encounter witnessing somebody with a totally pristine soul. Hesitantly, Sirius inquired if he cleared the assessment, and if she could utilize cleansing enchantment to eliminate the toxin. Mia confirmed positively and requested everyone to depart. The setting then transitioned to a bit later, where Mia and Sarah were unaccompanied in the corridor. Mia informed him she'd commence his detoxification presently, and requested him to recline. After reclining, Sirius inquired if he should perform anything further. Mia answered, directing him to remain still. She then clarified that their purifying enchantment was granted, bestowed upon them by the sacred ocean, and every individual possessed a designated body part. For conjuring, Mia presented her right foot and disclosed her cleansing magic resided in her feet, utilizing stepping movements to execute the magic. Mia then divulged that during her purification magic use, Cyrus mustn't entertain any malevolent notions, as it would progressively weaken the magic's potency. Nervously, Cyrus inquired if those wicked thoughts pertained solely to him. Mia confirmed, clarifying that since becoming a holy ocean saintess, her yearnings were relinquished. She requested Cyrus to fully unwind, guaranteeing him she'd commence from head to toe to evaluate his physical state, as it was an essential component of the procedure, so Mia could mend his body more precisely. Cyrus consented. Mia started maneuvering her feet around his hand, modifying and enacting her cleansing magic. Observing this, Sirius figured she was using her foot to adjust his hand, so he shifted it himself to assist. Mia yelled at him to stay still and promised she'd manage it. Mia stressed that any motion from Sirius could impact her spellcasting. She then complained about the chair's tightness and asked to use his face as a prop, resting her feet on his face. She cautiously inched her left foot toward his hand. Mia declared the magic was starting. The instant she raised her foot, Sirius felt weight on his face. To his astonishment, he was floating on water, confused about his location. A foot dropped from the sky and landed on him. Sirius stiffened under the heavy load, so he forcefully pushed the foot away. Mia's foot was propelled through the air. She told Sarah to loosen up and not fight her foot, clarifying it was a piece of the recovery journey. Mia also added that she was employing her cleansing abilities to channel his awareness into a particular area of his form. She guaranteed she'd extract him from the liquid, and his digits would be mended. Cyrus replied he grasped it and was prepared. When she positioned her foot once more, Cyrus was set as the foot neared him. He leaped and clutched the suspended toes. Mia stated she'd hoist him out instantly, but Cyrus was snagged by an unseen force beneath the surface. He alerted Mia something down below was ensnaring him. Mia answered those were the toxins within his system. She then tugged him and urged him to seize her foot. He attempted but couldn't secure a firm grasp, so he pondered ripping her garment for a superior hold. Mia observed and commented Sirius' behavior was quite impolite. Regardless, Sirius clung to her foot firmly as she yanked him from the poisonous roots. He understood that despite her tight hold, he experienced no discomfort. Instead, he felt unexpectedly at ease. Abruptly, Sirius felt his pinky growing quite hot. Once he was removed from the liquid, he observed firsthand his pinky had reappeared. Unclosing his eyes, he saw his finger regrowing, verifying its effectiveness. Then Mia stated she detected another fragment and requested Sirius remove his footwear. Similarly, his foot's extremity was also mended. Cyrus was astonished by the cleansing magic's potency. Mia then clarified she needed to shift her approach. Having pinpointed the toxin within him, she positioned a seat between his legs and instructed him to recline motionlessly, stressing they must collaborate to purge it. She then places her foot on his groin, as it's the toxin's origin. The instant she places her foot, Sirius is shocked by agony, wonders if it's real. In the fantasy, she was forcing Cyrus underwater, claiming she would submerge him, and he had to draw the toxin up. It would vanish and his system would be cleansed. Cyrus angrily replied he couldn't respire underwater. Mia soothed him not to fret, then coiled her legs around him, stating this would aid him in purging all the venom by constantly boosting his abilities. Abruptly, Cyrus observed he was expanding. As he descended to the ocean's floor, he spotted crimson tendrils sprouting from the base. He inquired if this was the venom within him. With resolve, Cyrus advanced toward the toxic roots to extract them. Meanwhile, in actuality, MIA's form begins feeling peculiar. Conversely, the series interface displays one of locked affection, implying Cyrus somehow designated Mia as his objective. And now Mia would be tempted, like the rest. So, what are your thoughts? Could she cleanse him? Or would her wicked impulses surface? Finally, Cyrus had to battle Azathoth. Lacking the resolve to heal his toxins,